Right, we are live, ladies and gentlemen. We are live, and I'm very, very excited. This evening, tonight is, or this evening is the 23rd of August, 2022, and there's so much ongoing, and we are not going to be left out of the conversation. Absolutely not. We get a moral obligation. We get a constitutional civic obligation for continuous for do what we do in all fairness, not beholden to anyone, but to we nation. Famule Masuna done the witness for the past. There's a lot of things pre-August 10th, but even after August 10th, like politicians, the one them with so much wisdom. There's a famous saying, I hope I get it right, in which there are times when decades can happen in a day or in a week or in a month. Now, something similar now with the CISO. So much within the last 2 weeks has happened, transpired in our country, that even we self they get caught up because we are left behind. Before I go forward, with my introduction, of course, we get a guest. Una all don't see the flyer informing Una of Uda they come. It is quite important for that we also they recognize we community champions and etc. Those that are with us, those who's then one day we don't transition to the great beyond. In this regard, I want to bring light to the Sierra Leonean community, more specifically here in UK, but the wider Europe, mainland Europe, because she was known beyond the shores of the UK and going back home, that one of we sister, okay, a mom, a wife, they don't transition to the great beyond. And I talk about none other but Sister Lucy, whom lots of people know because of in kind heart, in goodness, and in attraction, to other people who can be easily touched by in good ways inside them. So we lost with Sister, I believe now the 2nd of this month, the very beginning of this month. The sister married to a brother who is also heavy in the community, and this now brother Salam. So Sister Admire, call her middle name, Lucy. She's transitioned to the great beyond, and funeral arrangements have been made by the family, and I believe the body will be taken home. There is a repast or some funeral rites on the 6th at the Church of England, somewhere in Camberwell, at a road called Vassal Road. For those of you who are watching now who are familiar with the UK, and you go one for go pay you tribute, to the family of the fallen woman. And not forget now Vassal Road, and on the 6th, the Church of England with the Vassal Road. That's where this program will be held, honoring the memory of the late woman. And if you want to say Osh to the family, Brother Salam is available, Salam Nuraini. Not get in touch with him. He's also a very famous man at the community for good things, because sometimes a person can think say they're famous, but they're infamous. I remember while being young, they come up, they do all kind of funny things. Then you feel say you're not champion. The late daddy can say, you feel say you're famous, you are very infamous. Never forgot that. But on a more serious note, Sister Lucy don't transition to the great beyond, and in funeral rites will be held somewhere in Freetown. But for respect the transitioning of this late woman, there's a ceremony at the Church of England somewhere in Camberwell, Vassal Road. That's where this program will be held. So I can see now the sheet down there where the family put out for the state Lucy, the late Lucy, a woman that I knew very well. She was part of the Then and Now media platform. She had a presence there, and once in a while, it can hit on me. Then guerrilla tactic, just hit on me and then withdraw. So I will miss her, and sure enough, Then and Now platform will miss her. So in behalf of the platform, may I use this opportunity for extend we heartfelt condolences to the family of the late Sister Lucy Admire Salam. May God Almighty grant him Jannah, and as the Christians say, may her soul rest in perfect peace. However, this is not the thing about life and death. People die, life continues. Because it's actually the living that matters. The dead, na memory. Like we were there so now we get for worry about who that get mortgage, who that get rent, who that get council tax, who that get oyster for buy, who that get for go work. You know what I'm saying? So let the dead lie in peace. And Sister Lucy and to the bereaved family, may your soul rest in perpetual peace. Thank you. So we all don't see what's happening for the past 2 weeks now in country. Let's get down to the basics now. We all don't see what's happening for the past 2 weeks now in country. And inside the past 2 weeks, protests take place. Today, them bury policemen them we lost their lives in the active line of duty. We want for join all and one them in good faith. We express them sincere condolences to the family of the bereaved, and now they talk about the policeman them. But I not only want for Tapande, because prior to the burying or funeral rites of the policeman them, we also know say over 20, at least by the record that we know now, because there are some accounts we will talk about here tonight, it seems like the number has grown since then. Because officially, I think it was 20 civilian and 5 policemen them. Now that number, they don't grow. But in as much as we bury with policemen them, and with the very, very strong, powerful voices, they, pay condolences to the policemen them, which we support, because we not support any kind of violence, but with the hope say, when it comes to time for the civilians to be buried, we not want for no split decision. Every life of a Sierra Leonean matters, and no one Sierra Leonean in life greater than another Sierra Leonean. I repeat, every life of a Sierra Leonean matters, and no one Sierra Leonean in life is greater than another. So when that time they reach for let we bury with civilian them, I pray God that we will find the inner peace in ourselves for understand say all the people that fell during this crisis, during this turmoil in our country, the blood that they shed should not go in vain. And in fact, it wasn't for nothing. We have to remember this. Now, make politicians the need for tamper down. Coming to the program here tonight, anytime we wahala like this happen in any country, there is some degree of seriousness attached to it by different organizations, both domestic and international. And one of the things, especially with waiting unfold in our country, is the taking up of notes, the accountability process. Because eventually, if they talk about investigations, then you have to gather evidence. And if government cannot do that, especially during this early period, then other organizations on their own volition, they can decide for go ahead and begin for do that. Hence, the manual they talk to tonight, the organization not begin the counting process, the accountability process has already started. And not alone, in tandem with other Sierra Leoneans, far and wide, for know how many people actually died on the day or after or before, how many people are actually missing, how many people are actually being held in custody in various cells around the country. So that process, the Fambulem, I will tell you, say it don't begin. That much I can say. The man where they lead the campaign is on the platform here tonight, and he's going to tell us much more. It's unfortunate again that big one then they come out people and we get voices, we get bullhorns, we get mega platforms where they talk people and they listen for calm and continue for sow discord in the society. Some of the things they wait and they say is so divisive, it's so terrible that we people are having a hard time for phantom exactly what these people and they say or confused. Because one moment you think about this, the next moment somebody of some stature in the society come and say something, and you just get bewildered. You just become bewildered more and more, confused more and more. And sometimes there is an intention behind some of their broadcast there. Who they see there's an intention on some of the things then way these powerful people or so-called powerful people are putting out for help for confuse the state, for help for confuse the state of mind of people then. Because like I say again, there's an active investigations going on. And investigations is about circumstances where you not even get the hard evidences. Now circumstances now you actually they look at. And then you begin put them pieces there together with the help of others. So that eventually una go arrive at an outcome as per how the investigation go on, with no intention for be bias, with no intention, because there's no conflict of interest. I don't believe these people support either side. All they want now for the Sierra Leonean people for do understand say that na so thing they go on, and so therefore waiting the need for do now for understand the bottom line of this. I see the minister, the deputy minister of somebody sent me the tape. I think that yesterday, Pula audio, he talked a lot to a point where he was rather boisterous, out of touch. You know, because one moment it seems like he want for talk peace, and then the next moment you can feel the veiled threat. In fact, some points the threat wasn't even veiled. So the same people, I mean, the same government officials. First of all, it get a minister. Because in your opinion, waiting the deputy be the talk about and the way I go about him, it is above in pay grade, attacking the former president and the government and all other ministers in such a way that it sounds very gory for the ears. But you can also a game now in a play, if we all understand that. It talk about how them in the land book, you know, you're doing the other time where other people are not in the land book. Well, you go out for deny that because yes, but is it my understanding that they get problems with the law school? That because now he's a powerful man of government, they almost change the rules of the law school for FITAM. Can you imagine? And I think say some law professor them then kick against that strongly. Other than that, that will have passed through. Now the same man they tell we now say how much book he learn, how he sold land book. But now the same man, I mean they go lay down before truck for protest. Imagine, truck for protest. You land book. So it's not everybody that land book means say they're smart. This is the thing. You land book, but you're not smart. Now the same man sit down a studio and say and call for a coup. If you dare to do that now, would they see things that will not rise up to treason? People are being charged for treason. But this man sit down a studio say been exercising right, calling for the army to overthrow the government at the time. But of course, the government at the time, without backing them, wasn't stupid for say, okay, will they hold you there? They allow them for express that toxic talk the way been talk. You know, hold them for treason because one man they commit treason. But if government be one hold them for be hold them and maybe create charges behind that. But the point I'm trying to make is ministers of His Excellency Julius Maada Bio in government, they should be more responsible in waiting in the sea. You not go get fire somewhere and then you help for pour kerosene or fuel. Instead of you they kill the elements the way they create the fire, where they make the fire for burn, sucking off the oxygen, not allowing more energy into the fire so the fire not continue for blaze. Because you get a responsibility, a sworn responsibility. When they recommend you to parliament, you took an oath of office for serve at the pleasure of the president. And we know the ministerial code and they, but of late, standards not there. Everybody is violating the standards, left, right, and center. And because there's no deterrent, nothing is being done. The alarming rate of these standards being violated is just there because there are no consequences. But one tell God thank you for few organizations, then where they live up to the name. They try for side with the Sierra Leonean people, the bulk of the Sierra Leonean people. So today, we go talk about the campaign within the lead, we are the right for justice campaign and the investigation within the pan. We go also talk, because say this Cuscas will happen, this be entering our country. There's a lot of talk about a lot of Sierra Leoneans living in the diaspora being directly involved in one way or the other. Either they use the pulpit for incite the violence, forgetting that the violence was as a consequence. Of course, I won't even go there because I like investigation. I am a man of the law. So until there is some, I can guess what, based on the circumstances what I don't see, but not go render any conclusion as some have done. Naming half of the population terrorist by virtue of what happened on that day. That people then come out, the fact that they come out and say the president must go, this now amounts to treason. Well, of course, I don't agree with that. Some of the sight displayed on the day, I really don't agree with that as well. The violence that was there, I don't agree with the violence. I still stand the ground that the people have a right to protest, and the protest was right and it was ripe as a consequence of the cost of living. All the international mainstream media then we talk to the president, we then lay the case, we then give the synopsis. Here then all they talk about, because they've been doing their work, they are well informed that the crisis is as a consequence of the living condition of the country, which has become intolerable. And fambul and we get for keeping at the back of our mind that we Sierra Leonean them, we almost immune to hardship. But of course, there are trigger points. And what I mean by this not that we force them with the suffer. We have suffered a lot, physically, morally, emotionally, and you name it. We've gone through all of this, socially, economically, but we have survived through the times. Even the one that we inflict them kind pain them here on we. Some of them have come and gone, but we as a Sierra Leonean people, we still exist to this day. So for people, Sierra Leonean, them at this time for come out, when at the crux of the matter, that's the thrust of the campaign, and say, Bo, things are not going right. You, Papa government, now you same one been promised from the beginning, say, the issue of bread and butter, which has suddenly disappeared from we vernacular, or which other so-called clever people and within government circle try for re-explain to we as if we are idiots. Now, in them, we promise the people. Because the last time, Tolongo no go Sidonia angry boku, and quoting the president, paraphrasing the president, the people of Sierra Leone are fed up. They are tired of buying a bag of rice for 200,000. And guess what the price is today? So if the people can't earn that for afford for buy a bag of rice and then come out for can't tell you, Papa President, this is just too much. Without the violence, and bear in mind, say we don't know who that perpetuate the violence, how it started. It could have very well been as a consequence of a reaction, something probably which was orchestrated. Because again, you see how they come hard at the civilian, and the duty of any government is to protect its people. It's a constitutional duty to protect your people first and foremost. You haven't protected them. You haven't provided for them. Now they hear all kind of talk. Well, ask not, you go and quote America talk yonder, where you not even understand the context. Where John Kennedy used back in 1964, around that time day. Ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. Have you ever asked yourself why John Kennedy said that at the time? But it's easy for them we quote that. You feel say the American government wasn't looking after its people? You feel say not to be obligation? You feel say the thing the way Sierra Leonean people and they go through this economic hardship, if it were to happen here in the West, you don't know say they go jump in the street and there will be violent protest because of the cost of living. People will burn cars, and I'm saying this because we've seen it in neighboring France. The jaune de jour, the yellow vest. I hope my high school French sound right, but the English version is the yellow vest. So when I stop for fool with people, we really need for stop and understand say that we all are one. Now we the people and they vent out some anger and divisive propaganda, the vitriol when they throw at Sierra Leonean, unwitnessed, unparalleled ever now in history. It's just getting bad by the day. So today, one look at the possibility of extradition, where the government don't make a core of their campaign how possible this is, because then lay the blame largely on diasporans them, when they say they incite the people down under, as if the people themselves not get conscience of their own. Why then go rally to a cry, assuming that it is true? Why then go rally to a cry from people that were outside of the country if there is no cause, if there is no catalyst, if there is no basis? Why would they? Or as usual, we just take with people and for being munku, for being stupid because of the new language down there in town, wrongly used again as well. So we'll look at the possibility of extradition. We will also look at the scope of the human rights investigation, the Africanist press, championed by CHERNOH, is leading right now. How they started it, where they are, how far they've gone, what's the determination, the prerequisite, and you name it. All of that, we will look into it. And on this basis, I want for now bring we guest into the platform live. And CHERNOH, always glad to see you. And you're leading a marvelous campaign. You are going the length and breadth for make sure say we politicians, we public servants them, from whom then they pay them taxpayer money for look after the nation, and the nation is made up of us, the people. But yet we see this divisive tactic. Well, you are doing very well by exposing. This is what it is, by exposing this rubbish. I call it nonsense, absolute nonsense. And the way that they go at it, you don't even need for open your eye fully well. You don't need for open your ears fully well for understand say this is an agenda. Divide and rule a column. Well, I give you a chance for let you speak to Fambulem and tell them I do, and welcome again to the TNN.
Yeah, thank you very much for continuously providing me the opportunity for use this wonderful platform for communicate to the people. And this is truly appreciated, especially so at a time when we see concerted effort on the part of government and the allies of government, both in opposition parties and civil society, in the media, and other interest groups for prevent access to real information. So I will continue for salute then and now, and also thank you for the dedicated work that you've been putting, the number of hours, number of time into this conversation to get things right. This is very important. And yeah, I'm also happy for day today, and I want to send my greetings to people who have joined us, who have continuously showed interest in the conversations that we continue to have. And yeah, so far that I just want to say. And I'm here to talk about the Right to Justice campaign. And this is just a human right. It's a human right initiative involving myself and other people from the Africanist press, but more so, it is what you might call a transnational effort. Transnational effort in the sense that's an international initiative involving Africanist press, people, and also other experts in investigations and human rights across West Africa and across Europe now, and again, some in the United States. So we want to develop an independent, and not like for use coalition, an independent collaboration where people from different fields with different expertise, different knowledge come together and decide for build an independent program way for enhanced democracy and democratization. In this case, Sierra Leone, and this come about from the call put out by the Africanist press and myself personally, that the situation in Sierra Leone now requires not just reporting about the situation, reporting about events that are happening, or reporting about the corruption that is taking place, the bad governance that's taking place, the injustices that are taking place, but also for call upon friends of Sierra Leone and other well-meaning Sierra Leoneans for take action, democratic action, for impress upon the government and other sectors of the society who are responsible for the development and implementation of public policy, for do things rightly, for do things that will benefit the greater good, the greater majority of Sierra Leoneans. So we have moved from reporting about the infractions of the administration, the crimes, financial crimes committed, financial and political crimes committed by politicians and political actors, to now bringing Sierra Leoneans together and non-Sierra Leoneans who are concerned about democracy, human rights, good governance, freedom of speech, and peace, for help with for impress upon leaders in the country and other leaders outside of the country who are interacting with Sierra Leone for make at least part of their engagement the maintenance of minimum standards of good governance and accountability, transparency, and peace in the country. So this is what then translate into what we are now building as an organized transnational network that's called Right for Justice. Right for Justice can involve many other things. The two basic initiatives where we get now a letter writing campaign where we mobilize citizens of the world, both Sierra Leoneans and non-Sierra Leoneans who are concerned about democracy, human rights, the basic principles of good governance in the world, for rights both to domestic leaders in Sierra Leone and to leaders who are friends of Sierra Leone, for impress upon them the need for prioritize the situation of Sierra Leone. Part of the thing now for make sure say what's happening in Sierra Leone is not happening in the dark or not happen in isolation, because right now we get too many problems in the world. We get crisis in Ukraine, we get problems in the Middle East, problems in India, Bangladesh, all of these places where governments are in crisis, in Syria, in Russia, the Middle East, Latin America. So countries like Sierra Leone will occupy small space in the global geography of nations, get the risk of being lost, because you say the only time where the media don't flash, don't bring them cameras, that's alone when they see people and begin die. So we therefore make sure say the attention, public international attention is also, brought to bear in Sierra Leone, not just when people are dead, when disaster happen, when mudslide happen, when Ebola happen, when COVID, or not to catastrophe or tragedy for bring the world to we therefore also make sure that the world is always made aware of developments that might translate into what we see in on the 10th of August. So now that we try to do now, that in the midst of the global crisis, more priorities are being placed on other countries and other places in the world where require urgency, that our responsibility as people who are engaged and affected by what is happening in Sierra Leone, also for make sure say that remain, as part of the conversation, global conversation. So this is why we have decided to enlist the participation of other people who we know say they are influential in institutions and locations where they are based to help us act globally. And not only act globally, but act globally in the interest of the local situation in Sierra Leone by highlighting it, reporting about it, and engage various actors for make sure say the Sierra Leone does not just remain something that Sierra Leoneans care about, or the story about Sierra Leone is not just one that is told by the political actors there, but independent individuals have the responsibility to impress upon good people around the world for help we tell our own story from our own perspective as well. That is what. So we don't initiate a letter writing campaign to the president of Sierra Leone. We're going to follow that up with other strategic leaders in the country, leaders of the judiciary, judges, leaders of other institutions, the Electoral Commission, so people can help us write peaceful letters, civilized letters, highlighting some of these issues about good governance and accountability. The objective is not to make the president write way back. It's part of building what we call global opinion, a global opinion, putting the Sierra Leonean situation at the forefront of policymakers, both locally and internationally, knowing that Sierra Leoneans are concerned about it and non-Sierra Leoneans are concerned about it. And that is one. The second aspect is that a tragedy has already unfolded in the process where we try to build this campaign. So we decided that part of what we have to do is to prevent such kind of situations from happening, but at the same time, take proper accounting of the loss of lives. We have spent 4 years accounting for the loss of public money in Sierra Leone by documenting exactly how transactions have been done, people withdrawing cash, bags of cash, loads of money from banks, commercial banks and central bank, on the instruction of the president, the first lady, the chief minister, and leading officials in the Ministry of Finance, the Accountant General's Department, the secretary to the president, and all of these people. So we done successfully document that, how monies are being looted from the National Treasury of Sierra Leone, and how that money is being taken out of the banks and out of the country as well. So now we've gotten to a point where lives are also being taken as a consequence of this situation. We don't expose the government to the point that now all we see coalitions are building up in defense of this corrupt situation that we've been exposing, to the extent that now that lives are being stolen in addition to money that has been stolen. So it's our responsibility to also keep a proper record and account of the amount of people who have died as a consequence of these developments, and not just limited to the official record, but also independent citizens have the responsibility of taking account. And we start this by initiating an open response line, a telephone line where people have been sending in information about missing family members, those who are arrested, those who have died, and all of that. And the numbers are amazing. We've received hundreds of messages, hundreds and hundreds of messages. We are following up on some of them, calling them to find out how it's going. But the idea here, first and foremost, was to establish the basis of an investigation. We find out, say, oh, more people are reportedly missing, reportedly killed, reportedly arrested and detained in unknown locations, where people don't know about. And the risk here is that when you arrest a political party leader, constituency chairman, regional chairman, a famous person, everybody will know about it. But when you arrest the party supporter or a market woman, and other ordinary citizens, there's a risk that they will not be known. Nobody knows about them. Nobody know about them, and they are not active on social media. They are not quote unquote celebrities, these celebrated individuals in the country, or they are not families of celebrated individuals. So we risk forgetting about them, because there are people who were arrested in Tombo, in Lonsara and in Makeni, who are still in jail. Some have even died in jail, and only their families know about them. The politicians and the political actors, they are members of parliament, and party leaders do not care. After the fire brigade discussion, that's done. So what we have initiated is to take the stories of ordinary people and document it, about their experience, about what happened, and take a record of those who were casualties and victims who have not been accounted for by the officials, whether they are government officials in power or political party leaders in parliament or outside of parliament. So that's one aspect. The second aspect is to also investigate how this protest happened. How did it become violent? Whether and who are the actual people who are responsible? Because we were told at the beginning that this was a faceless protest, a protest without phases. So we want to know how this faceless, not why the faceless demonstration happened, but how was it organized? Who championed it in the communities, and how did it become violent, and how it turned peaceful protest. First, it started 2 days of sitting at home, and then in the process it became mass protests on the street, and we see the casualties what happened, and to the extent that people were killed during the hours of the protest, and people who were killed also the hours after a curfew, or during the days of the hours of the curfew, and people were killed after the curfew was lifted. So these are 3 categories of deaths. The deaths that happened on the day of the protest, during the hours of the protest, then the deaths that happened after a curfew was pronounced and the subsequent days of that curfew, and the deaths that happened after the curfew was lifted. And in this case, you're thinking about the famous evangelist Samson and all of that. So if you take that case, for example, you have to investigate what is the role of this individual in the protest, before the protest, within the history of your relationships, political and non-political relationships, and why was he actually selected as a target for assassination? Okay, and what does it benefit the state? With the assassination of somebody like or execution of somebody like Samson, how that add benefit to the state, to the political party in power, and how is it a minus to the opposition party that he's reportedly attached to, and also who were the actors in those organizations that he was attached to, and what is the history of that relationship. That's one case. There are many other cases that might be looked at, including people who were arrested before the protest, as we get to learn. A key APC organizer in the East Med K was also arrested prior to the protest. So the question would be, why was he arrested before that? And what is the essence of arresting somebody like that in an area that became where the protest erupt? So we want to use our journalistic and other kinds of experience and skills of investigation for investigate the incident itself, not why the protest happened. That can be multiple explanations. Because of course, as you underline, we know the question people don't right for protest. We know the question whether people have a right to protest without a permit or not. Okay, but we are investigating the protest itself. How a faceless protest don't lead up to a situation where people are now claiming responsibility for a faceless protest, and who are now the identifiable phases of that protest, and
Did,
what
that,
are
did,
the
I, did I
relationship?
hear you say, CHERNOH, that people are claiming responsibility for the protest?
No, yeah, because I see now organizations all over the place who appear to claim responsibility for the protest.
Okay, and what's your
Without
suspicion about
prejudging,
that?
without
What's your
prejudging or
suspicion about that?
without
There's something
prejudging,
suspicious.
without prejudging the investigation. I'm just laying out, these are questions, these are part of the investigative questions that we're going to ask. So if the protest is faceless, then we have to also investigate how a faceless protest translated into the deaths that we're talking about, and why the government specifically pinpoint specific people in the opposition as people who are responsible. Then secondly, how the framing of the protest by the state also contribute to the violence. Okay. And secondly, if there are people who are now claiming to be behind the faceless protest as an organized group, so how they need to be investigated too, for see what is their connections and relationship to all of these structures of power, both within the government and outside of the government. So we need to do this as Sierra Leoneans, because we cannot just have a situation that claims the lives of Sierra Leonean citizens without getting a coherent explanation. And for me, personally, I always think we have to make an effort to go beyond the official narrative of things. In this case, the official narrative is that there was a coup attempt. It was an insurgency. People are called terrorists, and the terrorists here are actually people who they believe were opposition party members. And how
Okay,
can we explain? How
Cherno,
can we also explain
let
the
me pause you.
confinement of the demonstration?
Let me pause you there. We're going to come back to that.
Okay.
But I have questions for you. In other words, how long has this effort, this new campaign, Right for Justice, has been in existence? And
Now
so far, what has the organization unearthed? Because the investigation, as I believe what you say, has commenced. So I believe so when I get some take.
Yeah. The Right for Justice campaign, in fact, we initiated a couple of weeks ago when we talk about, first it came out of the experience of our exposure of parliament. If you remember, the Africanist press discovered that parliamentarians were trying to pass a law to prevent people from voting, which we've talked about on this show and many other platforms. So apart from reporting about it, we took an advocacy role in which we called on people to send peaceful messages to MPs, reminding them that they don't want the law to be passed, and that produced great result. Basically, we highlighted the extent, by June, we began to highlight the extent of state capture in Sierra Leone, where we said the president has two basic strategies to rig the election. One was a process to exclude voters who he thinks, especially from opposition areas, who are likely to vote against him, by introducing a law that would make it difficult for them to register and vote. And we said Parliament is complicit in the process because they were trying to do this secretly. So we forced them not to do it. Okay. The second thing, we also started highlighting the control of so in the process, we realized the extent of state capture is so deep. So we decided to extend the phone-in campaign to a letter writing campaign, where we now write to the president to tell him that hands off state institutions, allow the rule of law to operate, allow separation of powers to operate. We need a democratic. So while we were preparing that, we were even announcing the launch of that program, is when this violence happened. This tragic protest came about and people were dying. So then we decided, okay, in fact, as far as, like we said in this program, as far as we're concerned, the protest and the tragedy itself is the direct result of a state-captured environment where parliamentarians, the political actors had failed. And we said it has electoral implications. And you see now mostly the violence happened only in areas that are considered opposition strongholds. And these were also areas that would have been affected if the public elections bill were passed, where opposition party supporters will find it difficult to register. And now with the protest and the government response with the military violence, many of them have been chased, harassed, and also intimidated. So there's every possibility that they will not be able to be in the areas where they are ordinarily resident to register to vote. So now, in fact, we are talking about violence instead of talking about preparation for the registration and making sure that the National Electoral Commission follows the rules of registration as enshrined in the laws, in the electoral laws. Now they even talk about using MCRA when the law does not allow that. So people are unable to pay attention to the Electoral Commission's activity and the preparation for registration because we are now concerned about the safety of citizens, the bloodshed that's happening, the ongoing police violence. So that don't preoccupy primary place in national conversation as opposed to talking about preparing for the elections. So you see the direct relationship between the protest and the parliamentary effort for exclude voters from voting, from registering and voting. And not only that, accusations are being levied against individuals who will be affected by the court strategy to also exclude them. And you read the accusation now, Anes Kuroma and Samura Kamara and Yvonne Akisoya are the main accused by the state of participating or failing the protest. And these are basically politicians who have been attacked by the government and even opposition or sectors of the opposition simply because they are viewed as significant threat to the continuation of Madabi in office. And not only that, but also for the ongoing battles in the APC for leadership and flag bearer competition in the party. So you see that the protest in itself has to be put in its proper context outside of what the international media has been seduced to believe, that it is the result solely of economic conditions, which cannot be subtracted from the situation. But the political factors that animated the protest have been subtracted from the debate because much of what the international media has reported about is what is coming from the state. That economic hardship and suffering, and yes. But what were the political developments waiting to take place from Parliament, the exposure of the 21-man illegal committee in the APC, the exposure of the use of the judiciary for harass and try to exclude significant opposition politicians from competing, the role of the fake corruption allegations by the government against certain key people, and when the government is much more corrupt, the failure of Parliament for raise the corruption issue, because many of them think that raising the corruption issue at the forefront of the debates in Parliament will actually make the BO government incapable for use corruption as a basis for exclude other politicians from competing. So all of this has direct relationship to the riot, but nobody's talking about it because we don't take the economic factors and put them much more primary, because it's and seduce the global media, and then they put this president who is appearing like a dummy on the international stage. And now we get to talk about how the president will articulate himself. We know he cannot speak. Even in Parliament, he has a problem reading his speech in Parliament, talk less of taking interviews and making sound explanation of what is happening on the ground. But that does not explain the violence, because the violence continues. And the implication of the violence is that it will reduce significantly the number of registered voters, which is what people have to pay attention to. And you see, Parliament went on holiday immediately when the riot happened. They don't go vacation. They will only return after the date for when the registration date don't close. At the time Parliament, they come back in session. Although there are provisions to invoke Parliament, forget an emergency sitting of Parliament for address all of this violence and all of that. They are not willing to talk about it. Parliamentarians are not even talking about the ongoing intimidation and harassment of their own.
So again, just a quick one. Parliamentarians they get an obligation for return to Parliament when the state they in some kind of anarchy and
Of course,
need for
in
come back.
crisis, and there's
Yeah,
even
but
a crisis in the country.
in this case, you're saying that they never came back
Oh, they
for
don't.
some
In fact,
emergency session.
they went on Wednesday when the riot was happening, or when the protests were happening. Parliamentarians met in Parliament to talk about the passage of the Political Parties Act and an amendment to the Constitution, proposed amendment to the Constitution that people do not know about. Up to now, we do not know whether they passed it into law or not. And after that, they just went on vacation for a month. Because the reason is Parliament decided to close right now because the news registration they come. These are the same parliamentarians who want to help the government for pass that dangerous law. We get the NIN and NCRA for making the new supporters in the western area, northwest and in the north, not able for register because the government get the intention or the determination for validate the fake census result, which is not a census result but the database of NCRA. That's what they're trying to use. So if they don't announce a census, the result where the talk say you got 600,000 people in Freetown, and now you get registration to come, people are going to turn up to register. If the registration beat the census, automatically a disgrace to the government, disgrace to Statistics Sierra Leone, and disgrace to these parliamentarians. So, and they want to have a situation where Madabe will get a second term by making sure people in the opposition strongholds do not register to vote, by basically suppressing voters, and not only that, excluding candidates that are a threat. That's the only strategy is. So now, on the eve, on the few weeks to the registration, when the parliamentarians are able to pass the law way for them make it easy for them to do this without violence. Now violence don't happen. They don't use the violence now as a basis for crackdown on opposition strongholds. And now they're threatening even for arrest opposition leaders. So the opposition is appearing. You get a situation where opposition leaders and organizers, and community organizers, zonal leaders are now worried about their safety instead of building up and policing. Because right now, if we don't get a proper disclosure of registration centers, we know whether there's an equal distribution of registration centers between the regions. Secondly, if we don't also question why NEC they decide to do rotational registration instead of simultaneous registration. You cannot say we'll do 2 weeks at the southeast, then we can't do 2 weeks at the northwest or north and western regions. You know, we say that because when you say that, there's a possibility say you go massively register in one region that you want, where the president has more support, and when you create the difficulty for people to register. These are all voter suppression strategies. The opposition should be right now, whether they are in parliament, outside of parliament, for say no, we know they agree, then go into political party liaison meetings to talk about these things. It should be the conversation on radio now. But now without the conversation, every day they tell you say the president will hold policy and that they can't arrest an Nkrumah and they go arrest Samura. So people get this anxiety about safety, about a violent environment and police brutality instead of talking about the electoral landscape. So when you look at the southeastern regions, you see even government officials, including the former IG, willing to support the ruling party, they organize people and for register to the extent that the head of the Petroleum Regulatory Agency went to a petrol station, was giving out free fuel to Okada riders, 3 liter each. It was, and then we saw these videos of mass meetings being held by SLPP and government officials and will prepare people for registration. When you look at Freetown, you look at the Namakeni, you look all the side away, they don't call people terrorists. Everybody's running for their lives. Then they're harassed and those stuff. So it means you use the army and the police to do the job that parliamentarians and the court has not been able to do. The laws and the institutions that would have provided this hidden approach to rigging is now being used violently and openly by the police and the army, the security sector, and parliamentarians went on holiday, so they don't call them. But the same way where the president get power for invoke parliament for pass the census proclamation, parliamentarians have the same powers to also convene an emergency sitting of parliament for address the hostile, violent environment. They don't want to do that because.
But could this be true that then get for do and through the speaker?
If the speaker know, then get other parliamentary leadership procedures. But this is what we are saying. It's intentional for them. They went on recess on this long vacation it's time to coincide with the registration, because now when this violence take place, they are all silent. They went on vacation. By the time they return now, then they hope say registration go down, so they go don't fix the electoral register. But even at that, you do not have for APC, they don't even get political party. You see the chairman of the illegal 21-man committee, they say one word, then the other faction say other word. So you cannot really, it's a dysfunctional political party with no structure. The previous executive, now even the previous executive, when they don't left them with the party, they are going after them again, say they don't forget side for them, for jail them, because then they accuse them of not only corruption, then they accuse them of creating the violence. So this is why there has to be a comprehensive investigation of the violence itself beyond this rhetoric, because the violence is not serving, it's not
Yeah, but
fulfilling.
Cherno, that's what you want. That's what most Sierra Leonean they want. A conclusive investigation, independent investigation. But from your narrative, you know that this is not going to be possible, isn't it?
No, yeah. No, we are not asking government to do that. This is why I'm basically speaking to the rationale of why we decide to come up with this investigation. Okay, which is why we are saying again it has to be a transnational investigation, because when we look at this, what has been absent in the conversation so far is how the political developments in Sierra Leone, the hostile political development, how state capture, the effort of the president.
I don't want to lose this thought. Assuming that una go through una investigation, which obviously go find out something different from what government find out. How far-reaching will the results of una investigation have?
Oh,
If you
yeah,
tell this
yeah.
people.
This Nadamic at this initial stage, we don't already they bring in as many organizations as possible at the international level and regional level now, ECOWAS, because you see, ECOWAS has already taken a position on the side of the government as a regional, and the reason is because already the current government of Sierra Leone gets significant influence in ECOWAS. The speaker of the ECOWAS parliament is a member of the SLPP. Okay, you get also other players in ECOWAS who are tied, whose sympathies are tied with the current government. So, and you see, a week before the protest, the Speaker of Parliament of the ECOWAS was in Guinea-Bissau. Tunis went to Guinea-Bissau a week before the protest happened. And the very week when the protest happened, the person that went to Freetown to endorse the government, the accusation against the opposition, and raise the profile of the security officers as against ordinary citizens, was the ECOWAS head of state, where Tunis visit in Guinea-Bissau. So we've been following these developments before Tunis was in. It's no coincidence that Tunis, who is an key SLPP member, was in, and a key person in ECOWAS was in Guinea-Bissau a week before the protest, after the protest happened, the person that they brought in to come and endorse the government imposition was the man that Tunis visit. So all of these factors, people don't know about this, but we know because we've been tracking these situations. We knew when Tunis went to Guinea-Bissau, and when this was the days before the protest, and when the protest happened, the same person and then bring for come with Tunis again, come to Freetown. And by then they had already accused the opposition of being terrorists, of causing the violence.
But these are just circumstances,
That's
coincidental.
that is what I'm saying. I'm just bringing, but all of these circumstances we're talking about are subtracted from the conversation. So they need to be part of the conversation, and they need to be interrogated and see what is their relationship. Because all we know, this kind of violence, it's not coincidence. We know full research in a coincidental violence, spontaneous violence. No, we knew that the objective conditions in Sierra Leone for protests, for any kind of thing for happen, exist. But what are the forces on the ground that animated this situation? They need to be identified, they need to be investigated. If they exist, they need to be brought to the public domain. So if you ask me what is going to be the far-reaching thing, it's going to be far-reaching. This is why we spend time on them and spend. So far, we've been able to receive directly a lot of information and data on people and activities and things that happened before, during, and after the protest. Which is why I'm also telling you that for some people who were not aware, Tunis, the Speaker of Parliament, with an SLPP member, key SLPP figure, was in Guinea-Bissau the days before the protest. So the fact that he was there, and then you get Mbalo coming from Guinea-Bissau to Freetown. I mean, we get to investigate that. Why was Tunis there? What was it? What did they discuss? How is that relative to Embalo's endorsement of the government position without an investigation? So we get, and what is their relationship? So these are not accidental things. So we've already started looking at all of these developments as part of how we frame up the scope of the investigation and what we hope to look at and look for. But if we conclude this, I will guarantee you it is not an effort that is happening in isolation. So as it is now, many people are paying attention to it, including the government people. That's why there's even an effort to distract people's attention. You hear, all kinds of calls, but we are focused. We know what we're looking for, and we're going to look at it comprehensively. We've already started looking at it. So, but apart from this, we intend also to make it transparent. We intend to contact all of these players, from opposition party leaders, civil society organizations, media people, ordinary people, government people, also get their reactions to this, including any individuals outside of Sierra Leone who we know, have a knowledge or are mentioned in this discussion. If they want to talk to us, we are willing to also entertain their conversation. We will be reflective. We will reflect all sides into a report that we hope to.
So let me ask you this, CHERNOH. Your organization obviously they get information also from people on the ground, undoubtedly, because now they the action day. I mean, what would you say to those who go say either you organization to take a reckless position in compromising the lives of potentially people that way they give you information as to waiting transpire or waiting they go on, or for put them in another way to you respectfully, do your organization, do they have like triggers in place for protect such people where potentially go they pass on information owing to the current climate in the country?
Yeah, confidentiality and protection of sources, not what we specialize in, which is why you see for the last 4 years now with the Madabio administration, they keep guessing who is giving us information. So, we understand the implication and the security risk attached to situations like this. Is much more dangerous than when you talk about the theft of public finances, because here we're talking about actual extrajudicial killings. So we guarantee confidentiality, and we don't develop on our website. If you go, if you allow me for share this page, or if you will help me share that from the
absolutely
from the I don't know how to share with here, but if you go to the Right for Justice campaign website, you will see we get a form where you can report a missing person and all that. So what we collect first for now, what we don't collect so far, now data on missing people and the stories attached to some of how they were missing. Why we decide to do that and to provide the basis for see if there is a need to look into the thing further. And now there are reported atrocities, enormous reports of atrocities that we do not that make it necessary to investigate the situation. And then once this is collected, we anonymize basically the individuals who provide this information, especially in areas where they don't want to be identified. And our responsibility also for verify this data, for make sure malicious claims are not part of the data that we include. Our responsibility that to fact check, and which is why if you look the list of people who've also enlisted into this process, they are expert fact checkers, people specializing in fact checking and assessment of evidence at a different level. We have anthropologists, forensic experts, and all of that. And we keep adding more. Apart from individuals, we also get institutions and organizations that are specialized in this kind of work that we intend to work with. So
just for pull you on the track where you are, please bear that in mind, because you can't write back there. So I believe in the form where you need to talk about now your website. So if you can take me through the form while I roll and for let people understand exactly
you see the form get you put directly on the website the person, whether it's missing or killed, and the date, then the name of the person, the missing, whether the person a man or woman, then you also put the date where he missing, and we sign at the last place when I been say I'm if not tell when they arrest and I also not say again, or not be arrest and do the protest, and address, we say the person my last day, like a family address. And the reason why we request this because we therefore also, tell us say Almami, Sise Don Laws, you been there 5 Fena McKinney, 5 Frontier Road or social side that we need for verify for C. Do you know where the person, or if the person they don't kill him or you don't see him, or if you be saying that they don't care go to mortuary, get the body again, all that we did for no. We don't get amazing and indicate where the person is to your knowledge. Describe briefly what happened when the person went missing or was killed. Provide names and contacts of family members or witnesses who can confirm this information. So you see. So apart from these details, we are in addition to what we have on the ground, we also intend for send we own experts them on the ground after we don't collect, and that is what we're preparing now. Get a list of people that we hope to interview either remotely. Also, we intend for in the next couple of weeks for get people that are actively in Sierra Leone who will be checking all of these details, anonymously and directly or indirectly checking and doing our own fact finding on the ground as well. We intend sending people in Sierra Leone, in addition to what we have on the ground, to look into to verify this information apart from our other processes of verification. So it's already a multinational effort in the sense that it involves people and institutions from different parts of the world and the region of West Africa as well. From Nigeria, right now we get people from Nigeria, the Gambia. We're adding in people from Senegal, from other places, Ethiopia, and some of the people they put as well then get experience in working, either investigating crimes committed by multinational companies. In the case of Nigeria, people who investigate Shell and BP and all that in the Niger Delta. Then we get also, in the case of the Gambia, people who are familiar with dictatorship and the human right, taking notes of the human right violations that happen under Jammeh. That's in itself an experience that we can rely on. And other scholars outside of in Europe and other places, we get other knowledge of investigations and research, especially verification of data, assessment of data, and some are anthropologists, and myself as a journalist and other people, the organizations who we try to tap skills from. Why I say that, I would say we self want an open mind. We want to use this Sierra Leone investigation as also a pilot project of the Right for Justice campaign, which we intend to replicate in other countries where violations. So Salone a test case for we now as a group of people who are involved with human rights. So what do we want to do? What's the overall goal of the campaign? We want to investigate and accurately document the human rights violations and organize injustices that have been perpetrated against individuals and groups, not just within Sierra Leone, but in Africa as we move along. So the goal is to hold perpetrators of these human rights violations accountable, and for help the communities and the individual victims of this violence seek not just protection, which is what you've been talking about, but justice and reparations from the perpetrators of organized violence. You see, the idea of reparations here, you see when they go bear the police officers, and they say they don't give, I think, 100 million from what I heard. So if we, on a much more conservative exchange rate, we're saying at $10,000. So the question is $10,000 really worth the life of a Sierra Leonean citizen? When in actual fact, just going to Lebanon, the president took $1 million. Now you have 6 police officers, if not 6 them there. What are we talking about? $60,000, which is not even half the amount of money taken by the president to London, So you have the violence that is created, both the conditions for the violence and the organization and execution of the violence, execution of the atrocities here that happen, that claim the lives of these badly paid public officials. When they don't lose their lives, what did their families get from it? They got not even half the per diem of the wife of the president. Where Fatima Abiodun, they go London. So apart from the money wired to the UK mission, the money taken by the president, the president's wife alone took the more than £60,000, okay, as out of pocket expenditure. This is not the money we reported on your show going to the High Commission. Very even when
£4,050 and
28,000,
the 28,000 wired
yes,
after the
later
president
on.
had left London.
So you find out, say, this, the crime, that in itself is a crime where you loot money, and then we're talking about the life of an officer who died on the line.
Do you think then they are just playing politics with the lives of these officers?
Not to these people, the lives of Sierra Leoneans is not worth a chicken, because that's how you will explain or understand why military officers will turn up and kill Evangelist Samson in cold blood, and they are arguing about they have to develop a false narrative about he was caught in an exchange of fire. The president repeating that lie in front of the whole world. And today, the callousness, the level of callousness and insult, where you're going to bury officers who died as a consequence of the machinations of these politicians, both economic and political, are now paid, their families receive money that is not even half the per diem of the wife of the president when they were going to London just recently. It's not even, the president took £70,000 cash to UK on this trip. That is, compare that to the amount of money given to the families of these individuals. And we are talking about lives lost. These people then get wives, then get families, then get kids. They are going to be educated. They're going to go to school. Who's going to take care of them? As far as the government concerned, the politics they are playing with, that is over. Now they are even using it as a basis to harass their own political opponents, and also use that as a basis for re-election. They are using it as part of a campaign, as part of a process for marginalized people so that the president can get a second term. Just forget the second term. You see the lives that have been lost because this president has stolen so much money. So this is why an investigation like ours is needed. And every Sierra Leonean, everybody who's a friend of Sierra Leone, need to help us to get access to the details and the evidence that we require so that these people can be held responsible for this genocidal act.
Okay, every Sierra Leonean need for participate and help for bring these people to account. So let's look at
so that families who are victims of this situation at least can have decent reparations. The required actual reparations. Repair by knowing the truth of what happened, and also having certain kinds of responsibility that the state will assume for their families for this loss. You know?
Absolutely, CHERNOH. So the question I want to pose now as at this time is, your investigation that you're carrying out is obviously not going to gain any traction from the government. Traction in the sense that our government will respond kindly to it, especially the outcome. So will it be fair to say that the investigation where you carry out is not futile, but now for put the Sierra Leonean people them on track, for let them understand waiting to happen, but it's more likely for the international community for take note that here is what we've done, here is what is going on in our country, and subsequently, hopefully, they can actually take actions, for those one that will perish or we need some kind of a justice.
No, every effort by citizens, genuine effort, gets its own impact. Don't underwrite the importance of the work that we do. A few years ago, when we decided to investigate the Ebola crisis, for example, was not just about highlighting the crimes or going to arrest someone, but to also provide understanding to the rest of the world about a crisis that has happened, so that when similar situations happen, people will know how to respond to it or to reduce the level of one way for hold people accountable is by exposing what has happened, so it will prevent other people from, it will reduce the levels of impunity in certain quarters. That's one aspect, apart from the justice, the punitive aspect that some of these investigations bring to the table, or the opportunity for prosecution that is brought to the table as a consequence of evidence that arrives in the possession of particular institutions, organizations that are responsible for addressing some of these crimes. But at the same time, it also reduces the recurrence of these kinds of events and the impunity that goes along with it. But on a much more larger scale, it also helps to educate ordinary citizens, both within the place or the localities where these crimes happen, and other people outside of these localities who do not understand the local dynamics as they unfold. For example, I had a discussion today with a colleague friend of mine working for one of these international media institutions, where I pointed out how the international media was, seduced, in as much as they felt they were highlighting the infractions of the government, the failure of the government on the economic front. They were also helping the government in the process, because the government want that narrative, instead of highlighting how the politics, the internal political dynamics, and the process of the president to hold on to power actually created the conditions that they were trying to report on. But they will blame them people there, because the BBC and all of these organizations respond to situations as they unfold. And for the most part, many of the actors that they send to these places will not have, one, the historical background or the context, the local context in which some of these things are unfolding. And the fixers they have on the ground as well might have other interests, or may not have that kind of understanding to provide these nuances for help them grapple with the actual questions. The good thing that at least there is an effort to have people's voices reported to the rest of the world, and it draws the humanity. People are drawn to it because of their human and emotional reaction to violence and atrocities. But the actual cause and the causative agents are usually missed because of the unfamiliarity of certain reporters and when they go to a particular situation. So what investigations like ours do now, for correct that, and also help these institutions out in future, they will keep it in mind in going into a location. Like the work, our investigation on Ebola did that for the most part, which is why you see, even when COVID happened, there was also a discussion around the origin, the actual origin. People started debating the narrative around the origin of the outbreak or the pandemic, as opposed to just that one side story where they come. And up to now, I got reactions and responses and been interviewed by other groups of people who wanted my own explanation of the origin of the COVID crisis, because we had addressed that when it came to the question of Ebola in West Africa. So, and scholars around the world, scholarly communities, people also learn from these experiences. So we do work not just to solve a particular problem, but also educate the rest of the world about these kinds of problems when they happen, how they have to be understood, even if we miss them now, the lessons drawn from it go help communities, policymakers around the world, for know how they respond to this crisis. So it's not a futile endeavor. We learn from it. We also help to reduce the possibility of this.
No, but CHERNOH, I wasn't in any shape, sense, or form trying to ridicule the investigation. I am for the investigation, and I know it's not going to be futile. I was only trying to highlight that you do have an uncooperative government in power who doesn't like what you are doing.
No, the government will not like that. Will not like that. But when you look at a similar situation happened in Burundi a couple of years ago, where they were talking about the move when the president, the political establishment, decide for tamper with the constitution, talk about third term. This serious violence, the killings will take place. The BBC later did a documentary. You will find it impossible to watch it completely. People killed and flushed in peace, buried in mass graves and all of that. So it took a year for making the international media that was seduced by these massive protests around pro-democratic protests. What they did not see underneath was the state, the repressive nature of the state, and the killings that happened below the ground. So now, a year later, people started looking at it, and then the BBC produced this documentary, I would ask people to go back and look at it. I have not been able to look at it completely because the scenes are too gruesome. So, and this week president, don't forget, he don't visit Rwanda, he don't visit Burundi. He's borrowing lessons from there. They're learning a lot. And the similar kinds of crimes are happening in Kagame's Rwanda, because we see these skyscrapers and paved streets. What we do not see is the atrocities happening under the paved streets
for
and
control the states.
The mirage. This mirage of economic progress and development tends to mask the atrociousness of dictatorship. And Madabio, in greatest lesson, the way they borrow from Burundi, and we have to be very worried about this kind of situation, especially when our institutions are being captured. A friend of mine, international journalist who is now looking at the situation in Sierra Leone, said they've now got instructions from their own editors to look for the development, this cascading progress towards dictatorship, how this situation will be much more authoritarian. And I told him that I am playing now with the concept of authoritarian democracy. It's a democracy that is plainly authoritarian, and for lack of any better word, you have to use that paradox or oxymoron by itself, because this civilian nature, we get the civilian governments, but in the process of trying to hold on to power, so-called democratic regimes unleash these the operations or operational techniques of dictatorships. Is a new feature of democratization.
Yeah, exactly. And that coinage is very interesting. But just a quick one on that. Do you think that this is going to be a new norm? Is it going to exist, and is it going to be like existing in a situation in which you go incubate and become the new norm?
Well, this is why we are resisting it. This is why we have to educate the world. Our responsibility as citizens, all of us will not be able to see things as they unfold. We get 8 million, at least on the record, 8 million Sierra Leoneans. Not each and every one of us will be able to arrive at a situation where we see things and the dangers ahead of us for a number of reasons. One, the greater majority of people are concerned about daily bread. And because they are inundated with all kinds of problems, and the deliberate intention of the elite groups, academics, journalists, civil society actors, business people, will get vested interest in upholding the status quo. So they pump all kinds of fake news, fake documents, fake things all over the place for just distract people. And so we cannot focus on what is actually the issue of the day. So they set the agenda for meaningless conversation to distract an uneducated public. And not only that, a politically immature citizenry, where the levels of political education is really low. So it's our responsibility to be able to look in the midst of this difficulty, for pull out, as difficult as it is, some of the hidden swords in this national program of destruction, and help the world for no. Which is why you see we don't move from just reporting about the problems and trying for bring people together, say let us help also in our teaching process. We are teaching people, when we called on citizens to send phone calls to their parliamentarians, we were doing that to show them how they can act.
Let me ask you a further question on that. We don't just go over the 1 hour mark. We want to take a quick break and come back, so we'll shift gear a little bit. But on this position where you talk about, and conscientizing, educating the masses, what is the expected outcome? Because in certain quarters at CHERNOH, you can do all the talking that you like, and government knows this. Most government knows this. They stifle opposition, muzzle them, capture the institutions, control the media, and una waiting at the outside, una can talk as much as una can. But if there is no action, nothing changes.
No, there are changes. I tell you, if these actions were not producing the results that they're producing, we cannot see the state coming at us. At the beginning of this show, you talk about the accusation levied against the diaspora, where you have press unions, you have civil society people on the ground. They are not concerned about the dictatorship on the ground. They are concerned about the role of the diaspora. Why? Because they have not been able to disarm all of us. They have not been able to get all of us. We are not easily seduced by these politics of corruption and patronage and ethnic loyalties, political party loyalties above the national interest. So they're offended by that. They're offended by our passion to remain independent and our commitment to highlighting these infractions committed by a handful of individuals. So because the tentacles of the dictatorship has been incapable of stopping what we do, so the best they can do now is to see how they can criminalize, as they have done to sectors of the population in the country. They also want to criminalize a section of citizens of Sierra Leone who are outside of the country, who have made it a preoccupation to be concerned about the developments back home. So if the discussions, the conversations that we are having in not even in the formal media, because they've closed that space, these people in a salon, the journalists that know the interviewee, the television they feature we, then they try very hard with the politicians to keep we out of the conversation. But they're still concerned that even when they don't marginalize voices in the country, they're still concerned that our activities here is a hindrance to their alliances and their selfish interests back home. So the only way when they try to do now for tell the citizens, they will tell governments outside of Salon, say we are criminals. So they are trying to criminalize us, which tells you whatever we're doing here is really effective. And we just have to continue to do that repeatedly and over time. And it will produce the result. It's making it impossible for them to move the way they are moving. So I am really not concerned about the effect that we're having. I am positive because I see it on the record. I know it in their personal conversations. They've had sleepless nights. For example, when it comes to the Africanist press, they've had sleepless nights about how to contain
Cherno.
so we don't get
So
information.
on this basis of what you just say, in as much as they try to vilify the diasporans them and etc., and then get the press back home because they don't muzzle them, what happened so must have come as a real rude awakening for them. But the question what I want to ask Cherno is about the cyber law. Because when it was introduced, there was plenty of talk about the cyber law and how it's going to be used. But of course, it is in the initial stage and it's a learning process for government. Do you think at some point the cyber law is going to kick in which then will stifle the voices of the diasporans? I mean, basically broke the bridge between the diasporans because they cannot silence us. That is for sure. But then cut that link there between we abroad and then the domestic audience.
No, I think what small style dictators and in their little minds need to understand that we are in a different place in the world. This is different from, yeah, exactly. So the technological revolution has made it possible for citizens of the world to engage in a global conversation on democracy and democratization that no small leader in any part of the world can stop. So that is the reality they have to come to terms with. The best way for suppressed citizens is by making sure you rule, you govern decently, you follow the constitution of your country, you provide the social and economic services that are required for human existence. If there are good roads, good water supply, better condition of service for public sector workers, and a thriving economic environment that supports private sector investment, as they like to talk about it, there will be, anybody that decides to find a problem with that, I mean, will just be on their own. But you cannot suppress, you cannot steal money from the treasury. You refuse to pay workers a decent wage. You marginalize people from speaking about their concerns, and you expect that you will develop laws and regulations to keep yourself in power. You're just making it difficult because nowadays the liberation of the instruments of mass communication, the internet, Facebook, social media, has made it impossible for any leader, no matter how strong you are, to cage, the circulation of information. It's impossible. To think about it in itself. And they have spent a lot of money. In fact, this week we are going to publish money spent by the government of Sierra Leone in its effort to control and spy on citizens of Sierra Leone. Like everybody is cyber spying and they listen to that. We are going to publish details of money paid from this Consolidated Revenue Fund by the government of Sierra Leone to cyber intelligence companies to help them contain the population of Sierra Leone and spy on and contain circulation of information. It's not a promise, we'll deliver it. So beginning tonight, that's what we are trying to begin to publish. We call this set of series or this set of publications the counterinsurgency, the counterinsurgency program of the government of Sierra Leone, where the government is using, apart from capturing institutions, is trying to use legislation and institutions in a way to clamp down on citizens who do not agree with the democratic backsliding that's taking place in Sierra Leone, and they're spending our money to do that. So I think it's you cannot criminalize free speech. You cannot criminalize democratic participation, open governance. That would have been the pathway. Developing laws and using state institutions to freeze people's right to democratic participation is unhelpful in any society, because societies that develop have to be open. Any open society provides possibilities for dialogue, for conversation. And when public conversation is taking place, no matter how dumb a president is, no matter how fool you are, you'll be able to harness public opinion in a productive way that will allow you to develop public policies and programs in response to the needs and aspirations of people. But when you make it a priority to suppress public voices, you are basically denying yourself the opportunity of tapping into ideas from the public that will help you to develop the quality of governance in the country. And when the quality of governance is affected, then all other aspects of development is going to be affected. And development is not just springing from the air, it's coming out of the ideas within the society, both from those in government and those who are affected by public policy, including all of us as citizens who are concerned about how governance is operating and how public policies are going to be developed. Because make I tell you back, no matter how the people here disagree with we they can copy we ideas. They copy we ideas and they react to them. They do it quietly and secretly. Then they pretend they will say so they will try to tell you, well, you're not important. Any country where you think where people in power begin to decide the relevance of citizens based on that only those citizens who agree with the government or who support the party in power is a problem. Because this is why you will have a political party in power and a government in power and government officials accusing one region of the country of being terrorist and another region of the country of being good citizens. So you cannot divide your country in that. All those who are in favor of the government in power are the good citizens. All those who are not in favor of the party in power are considered as bad citizens, unpatriotic, terrorist, insurgents, coupists. That is not the way you build a country. National cohesion presupposes the ability of the president and the party in power to be able to harness and incorporate divergent views and ideas in the interest of national unity and collective national development. But they understand this. And this is why it's difficult for them to govern. They have to use the police and the army all the time. They have to arrest. They have to use the courts. They have to use poor judges who will just send people to jail, not because they want to do that, but they have to satisfy the president in power. Because they don't do that, they will lose their positions. And losing their positions means they've lost good livelihoods, good salaries, benefits in a country where everybody's poor. So it's a sad situation. I don't know if you still did it.
Yes, Mr. Ba. Obviously, I'm here. I'm just hanging on to everything that you're saying. I mean, your flow. It's like it can be compared to a Jay-Z or a Nas. You're just playing with with rhythm, brother. Well said. And Fambulem, a massive welcome to Una. We talk to a massive guest, a man with a massive voice na the international domain. We not only they talk about the domestic domain. And it's not other about CHERNOH, but we just gone past the 1.5 hour mark. We'll not be want to make this program too long. Probably we'll get about half an hour more. But this is CHERNOH, CHERNOH Mba. Let's draw the distinction. CHERNOH Alpha Mba, not Cherry Cocoa Bar of APC opposition. And this man is an Africanist press that writes, that uses the pen to tell the truth. but many things have been thrown at him, including the kitchen sink. But he's fighting back. He's not going down, he's fighting back. Today, now the 23rd of August, 2022, and we get over 300, 310, 315 people watching us. But obviously on Facebook, we get roughly about 150 people. And like we say, the platform eventually where we fading into, which is YouTube, is competing strongly. Remember, for years, Facebook has been our main staging area for we live video streams. But as we stream tonight, it's being done simultaneously on YouTube and Facebook. And for now, YouTube is taking the lead over Facebook. So 150, 140, 150 on Facebook and the rest is on YouTube. But we get over 300 viewers, which is good. And I go admonish Fambulem for shape this video to others. Una not hide and watch because we know some of una they watch. It will be fair enough for let we have this conversation. And pretty soon we will read some of the comments in the chat room, and we can always advise it, despite with differences, let's keep the conversation civil. Okay? Fambulem, today, I repeat once more, on the 23rd of August, 2022, and we are talking to CHERNOH Alpha Ember of the Africanist Press. We've just gone over the 1.5 hour mark. This is the TNN TV media empire, the Usai people and they look up to for real news. Thank you for watching, and I'll continue for shape. Yeah, so Fambulem, I tell you, thank you for watching again. This is the TNN TV media empire where they bring news to una undiluted news. And news where can only they in favor of the majority, undivisive news. News where they only try to put people in together. This is our common interest on this particular platform. We're not beholden to any particular individual. We're not institutions there now now we look up to, not strong men. So that make you read the conversation self with the whole. It is on a different level altogether. This not to them pot cover studio them. Who started they talk things them, we're not aligned at all with national interest. Just listen to the latter part, and then they talk only about the latter part. But it's important because maybe you don't forget waiting the guest been say earlier on. Some of them clips and they are being caught in terms of the words for put them out for people. You cannot criminalize free speech and the people's right to democratic participation. When you close the space, you only stifle that particular thing there, and it's a matter of time. You don't need the police and the army for govern the people, for goodness sake. They get a different role. The army is there to make sure, say, no aggression is directed at the country from outsiders them. But when you begin use the army for internal or domestic issues, then you need for go get your head checked up. Something is wrong. The police is there to serve the interest of the masses, to serve and to protect. But when you begin use them against the people, then you know say definitely that something is wrong. And this is what we are trying to call out. CHERNOH, we don't hear boku waiting this government they talk. Most of it amount to threats. Then first of all, lay a case. We don't know whether that case they get for whole water. By beginning for call people coupists, which you ended the first part of this program with. Coupists and terrorists, and I begin to tell friends then say they are determined for do something because when they begin label people coupists and terrorists, there are consequences for such labels. They've done it before. It backfire on them. The man who writes the speech then for the president, he came under heavy fire because we now know say we president can just read. They check or input inside the speech. And I say this with clarity because many a times I've seen the president reading, even though the hearing reports of him, he have been dyslexic. But when they read, certain time he can come across something, before you read something, you see him. I think say himself can panic, he say, waiting. But however, again for reading, but you can see that pause there. So we know waiting we say and how we say waiting we say. But the point that I'm trying to make, CHERNOH, is they've made this broad-scale accusation of people living abroad. That's me, that's you, and that's hundreds of others. say we are directly responsible for what happened on August 10. But if then they make that case day in a good faith, then obviously our support, and I believe largely the platform support the right to protest, not violence. We're not talking about violence. Let's distinguish that. So we do support that, but also violence come in. No, we don't support that at all. We totally dey against violence. But while we dey talk about violence, we on this platform, and are glad with the work we dey do, we are interested that there is an independent investigations held for get to the bottom of this. If there was violence, how did it started? Who that begin am? How we begin? Wetin lead to the death of Sierra Leonean? All Sierra Leonean lives matter. No one Sierra Leonean in life matter more than the other. So CHERNOH, why they don't put all these accusations on we? In other words, for build a case, for get us extradited. We're at the talk of the town now, and it seems for they excite the fan base because they are being thrown red meat. What are your thoughts, sir? Because you know, man, we sabi, you talk about these things and providing context as well, which is quite critical. What are your thoughts about this extradition for people apparently with support or help for insights, so-called insights?
It's just one thing you go underline from that now, the thinking, the logic of governance is a logic of governance that thinks of it, where people think of themselves as powerful dictators, and that they can do anything without regard to law. But the fact of the matter is, while they will try to turn their own part of the world that they control as a colony of gangsters, the rest of the world is not like that. Yeah, you know, just sit on a Sierra Leone and talk say somebody like me, for example, that is writing news about how the president and the wife of the president are looting the treasury, going with the money outside the country, nothing comes back, and it's based on evidence. You accuse me of terrorism, but the accusations they've made now against this week, they don't make it against me, where political party members of the opposition wrote in newspapers saying the publication of the Africanist press should be considered as an act of treason. So for them, treason is basically anything where the government not like. So anybody that departs from the official narrative that Madabio, na a good president, na talk and do, na the messiah of Sierra Leone, na the best president so far. You don't give free quality education. You don't. Anybody will not say that. We not sing that one day. Nah, a dissident. They call me dissident. So, but where it gets funny is when you think that you narrow-minded thinking of governance is going to be imported and enforced on other politicians in other parts of the world who have a responsibility to follow their own constitutions, their own national laws, international law. Because the mere idea that you can think of the dictatorship of Sierra Leone transcending the frontiers, outside of the boundaries, geographical boundaries of Sierra Leone into other territories, then it tells you what kind of mindset we have of the people in power, how they're thinking. So if you allow them kindly that they are and become powerful and get the transnational kind of connections, they will begin to kill Sierra Leoneans outside of Sierra Leone. Secret assassinations. You will begin to see Sierra Leonean winner. For example, they can hire even killers to kill other people because other governments do that. So any government really think about how they could try for manipulate other governments and other parts of the world for extradite their citizens back home, those are politicians who will think of paying assassins in other parts of the world to assassinate critics of the government who are living abroad. So we don't have to be worried about whether they can extradite somebody to Sierra Leone. We have to worry about the kind of thinking, you don't understand, for make Sierra Leonean politicians sit down in country. And by the way, these are politicians who were outside of the country some time ago. For make them sit down at Freetown and not do nothing, but for sit down at State House, Law Officers Department, inside State Lodge, inside Parliament, and in we offices and begin think about how for arrest, how they go make sure they frame up other Sierra Leoneans the way they're outside of the country, for make them send them go, make them go put them up at Ademba Road or kill them. That thinking that goes into that kind of mindset, the amount of time that you see to think about that, to find ways to incriminate Sierra Leoneans who disagree with you, who are outside of the country, who are outside of the borders of Sierra Leone. To think about how they can be arrested outside and sent to you so you can torture them and kill them and jail them. Because that's what you're saying. Because of what? Because they are speaking about the injustices. They are talking about the fact that the country should be run correctly. That thinking that goes into that, it tells you if that kind of leaders are powerful, they will begin to sponsor the assassination. So for example,
Chernoh, that's true. That's true. But is that possible?
But they do not have.
Possible?
Now let's come to the question of whether they have the power to extradite somebody.
Exactly.
What is the crime? In fact, in the first place, international law, the UN General Assembly, passed a resolution, Resolution 44162 of 15 December 1989, where it says, no individuals shall be extradited to a country where there are substantial grounds for believing that the individual may be a victim of extralegal, arbitrary, or summary execution, including those who receive death threats. So the knowledge stop there is a effective protection. You have to underline the word effective protection. Effective protection shall be guaranteed to individuals and groups who are in danger of extralegal, arbitrary, or summary execution, including those who receive death threats. So, and this includes the situation in Israel. You have Kamarimba sitting in jail. You have many people. You have seen people who are shot in cold blood. The Evangelist Samson and all of these people. So the government of Sierra Leone, in fact, is by itself a criminal entity. Because any government that kills its own citizens, unarmed civilians, when there is no war, even in warfare, there are rules governing the conduct. People are tried for war crimes not because they took up guns to fight.
Chernoh, I'm going to stop you. I'm going to stop you there because I want to let you clarify something. Please hold your thought there so you can continue later. But this is important for clarification. When you talk about the UN and you talk about the rules of the world, the UN, what they say on extradition and you name it. I understand say extradition as a process is not governed by international treaty. Okay? But it is overseen by the United Nations. In other words, overseen. But typically, this particular treaty is between nations. So if two nations agree, say, we can extradite each national, then that makes it a possibility, isn't it?
Oh, no, but each of these nations as well are subject to international law because the world is governed by both national, bilateral, multilateral, and international laws. Okay? A law-abiding citizen of a country cannot just be extradited because the government thinks you are a criminal, because your views are in conflict with the views or the policies of the government that is requesting your extradition. So the same law that provides internationally for the protection of citizens of the world, which, by the way, also national legislations in most parts of the world has to be in concert with universal standards of human rights. This is why you have the United Nations and all these organizations did not just come about just like that. They came about because governments in certain territories started killing their own citizens. For example, in Germany, the League of Nations came about because national politics affected other nations and they had to fight. And in the process of saying we need a world that will be peaceful, that will be orderly, that will be democratic, we need to build an international community of nations that are peaceful, that respect human dignity, then it means we need international law. Apart from the national laws that govern us locally, we have to have common principles of dignity and peace, common principles that enhance dignity, human peace, and global peace, for also regulate with relationships internationally. Because then we are avoiding a situation where we have to go to war locally and internationally. This is why when Sierra Leone was at war, the whole world came together to protect the state of Sierra Leone from being extinct. This is why when there is crisis in Sierra Leone, the whole world express opinion regarding it, not because the whole world not got a thing for do, these other leaders, US, UN, then they not get things for do, but because they realize a conflict in Sierra Leone has the possibility of affecting the whole world. So this is why it's called a global village. So any leader will not think, say, the activities in Sierra Leone is not just for Sierra Leoneans, it's part of the global geopolitical arrangement, doesn't know. So we get Munku there within our power. The problem is we have illiterates in power. No, this is the thing. Because it's real.
I've never heard you speak
No,
as
listen.
such.
It is real administrative stupidity and ignorance for make a national politician in a given territory not for understand how to behave internationally, how to relate internationally. Because you bring in our country image and reputation to disrepute by even thinking that you can just hijack somebody, can just request like you're buying a mango. Like you see trader the pass with mango, you go jog and
Which brings me, Cherno, we run out of time fast. I get two areas for cover before we close this program. Which brings me to the president in recent interviews. And the reason why the brain come up, you made a statement, about 30 seconds ago, 45 seconds ago. I've never heard you speak as such. And we get Munku them, what have you. You always mention. But now, yeah, that's okay. I mean, that's okay. I mean, that is not rudeness. We understand with vernacular. I just say because normally you are kind of measured. Which brings me to the president in interviews, two major interviews on the same issue that we will talk about. Basically, what do you think about the president in performance on their interview there, Cherno?
No, I think they are embarrassing him all the time. They embarrassing him and by extension embarrassing Sierra Leoneans because every time the president speaks on the international stage, it ridicules it shows a bad image of who we are as a country. Because if you begin to look at the president as the primary representative of a country, a fountain of honor, somebody who does not understand his place in the world and the significance of the position that he holds, and cannot even articulate his own vision. So ordinary citizens, how you expect the rest of the world to begin assess? Because if you have to assess the country based on the output of these political leaders that represent us locally and internationally, it's so painful, because then it shows not just a country that's governed by incompetent individuals, but also by individuals who do not know anything about the world and world affairs. So when they talk at these national platforms, the international platforms, they think they are talking like when they get small conversation no more in your backyard, careless conversation in a small bedroom where you're talking to two people they don't even know they're talking to the rest of the world. So that implication that, and then they get to realize it when they begin to say, "Hey, bro, you form one, if I don't talk." Say, "But how will do? I don't talk down." So, you see, so we have to have individuals who understand the world, understand their place in the world. They have to be clear in terms of how they represent us locally and internationally. So this goes to what I said. Many of these people do not know their first exposure to the world is political power, true power. And the power, again, is not coming because they are competent, because of the ethnic alliances, the ethnic networks, these rogue arrangements, like that you have in parliament, where these incompetent people and dishonest politicians are hiding and scheming behind the scenes, selling their own political party leaders because they want to position themselves to be flag bearers in their own political parties, scheming politicians. And they trading off the interests of the country, interests of their own party people and interests of their parties, so they can rise at the top. So when you get a crook politician like that becoming president, how you even get a conversation with the rest of the world? Because you don't even know, you are not used to struggling for your ideas and the principles and the values that you represent publicly. The only thing you know now, corner business, Juman business, the same Juman politics. So when you come on the international stage that you realize you are dealing with the world, you don't even have what it takes to deal with the world. You don't even know how to do it. So then people started looking at you as some kind of a donkey walking around aimlessly with no control. So that is really the unfortunate side of what we've been producing. And this one that we have now is the worst product of our society, and it's a horrible thing to watch. So me, they try always not for see because every time I see it, I begin to hold my head, say, "Hey God, what thing happened to me?" So that's how I feel about it. I am unable to assess the situation beyond the fact that we get a lot for
Okay.
recalibrate the country. It's about national recalibration, developing a new cadre or cadre of a new generation of leaders who we have to nurture so they understand our place as a country in the world and who we are as a people and how they can represent us. But you can have these beggars all over the place and all the beggars crooks and people who are ignorant of the world and world affairs.
Yeah. Okay. So far, Mulem, we talk to Chernoh, but we almost come to the end of the show. And I just want to bring this announcement to una quickly say we get a couple of shows line up. We expect for bring in Dr. Tonya Musa, who happens to be the Director of Media and Alumni and International Relations at the University of Sierra Leone, where we call for Abe College. And we will can talk about the role of social media now as Sierra Leone they go through a transition. I remember we will launch this platform. The first topic was the role of social media in modern day Sierra Leone. Is it shaping or influencing with political landscape and with politician them? I remember that very well. That was our very first program. We also they bring Dr. John Idris Lahai, the whistleblower about Dominion. So when I keep watch, and of course at the end of this program we will make the major announcement. We'll tell and say we get breaking news. But for now, we need talk to the editor or one of the editors of the Africanist Press, the man will continue for bring breaking news to us about the direction we country they go, on top of waiting we leader they all depend. And this man is none other but Chernoh Alpha Mba. Chernoh, um, I want make you provide a little bit of background again and close this program on the basis of the scope of the human rights investigation we want to carry out. I know say inside with three-prong approach on this program today. And this nine are the thing with you. You already don't lay waste the entire case. You don't talk about almost, yeah, everything. And we, when they ask the questions, get for the play something like a catch up. But never mind, we self know how for go turn the question and bring and come back so we go get understanding and we viewers then go get some understanding as well. So on the scope of the human rights investigation, how far have you people gone? And Fambule una not forget, if una look na the chat room, una go see say I don't put the website of the Africanist Press Campaign Right for Justice, which is there. Just in case you get information, remember your identity will be protected. This is sacrosanct when it comes to the Africanist Press. So there's a form there, you fill them, you don't have to put your name there, send the information, and not feel say you can put any information there, then just take and fitty fatal like some other pundits they will sabi. Just glad you forget some breaking news. No, that will be investigated. But the issue here is you will be doing justice for them one the way they seek justice. So, Cherno, how far is the human rights investigation gone? What are we expecting to see, Yeri? What in
Yeah.
this conclusion will lead to?
So far, we don't put together a team of people internationally, and we try to add more. And then we intend for break this into committees, specialized in different aspects of the investigation. And the other then will develop a, a formula for the investigation, basically the method that we intend to use. But already we don't collect sufficient primary testimonies from people who inform we of the basis of an investigation. I will tell you, say we get at least 300, minimum of 300 entries through WhatsApp of people with different stories. So we got to filter those and see which ones are really what we'll focus on. So I'm anticipating that by the end of this week, we go down zero on in terms of the amount of individual interviews that we get for do at the local, at the ordinary level. Then based on that, we could also make a list what we intend to publish publicly of other leaders, political party leaders, government leaders, civil society leaders that we want to talk to. Not because they are suspect, but also for get an understanding. And if they are mentioned as well, for get an understanding of what they think about people's testimonies of their role and their participation in the process. So I'm hoping that we will produce a balanced report. We can provide a comprehensive narrative of events leading up to this tragic protest, and perhaps individual, for me to be able to apportion individual responsibility. If we succeed for do this, and which I believe we will, then we go launch this report publicly and make them available and see what comes out of it, and also move on to the next stage, which is if the evidence collected is reached the particular threshold that it can be admissible for other kinds of action, including seeking redress or reparations for individuals who are affected, and we'll move to that next stage. But I think the first goal is to properly document the evidence collected and also verify, and then run this evidence with individuals, get the balance from, hopefully, when the request comes to government people to be interviewed, they make themselves available to be interviewed. So you imagine a situation where we will interview certain police commanders, heads of the police, the army, and people in charge of the police, the internal affairs ministry, people in the police council, people in government, internal affairs, and then in political parties also parliamentarians, political party leaders, opposition people, including those who are making the accusations and those who have been accused. How they understand this, because so that these are the think about. And Sierra Leoneans in the country and outside of the country who also want to make themselves available to be interviewed. So I am hoping that we'll have a collection of voices, apart from the evidence, a collection of testimonies and views from across the wider spectrum of Sierra Leonean society. And this includes Sierra Leoneans within the country, outside of the country, in government, outside of government, professionals and non-professionals, ordinary people whose voices will be reflected. It's going to be a very huge work. And in time frame, I cannot say for now how long this will take, but it's my expectation that we will do this and get a report out ahead of the elections.
I was actually going to ask that. You're waiting the Africanist press actually want for let the Sierra Leonean people and do whose kind of contribution way you'd expect. But I think you've nailed it by saying the need for express them voices, and if they get information, the need for come forward, because you've taken the onus for representing the interest, the entire country, the interest. Thank you so much for that. Before we go, CHERNOH, I just want read few, because now tradition on this platform. Let we see what people and they say, and saying our platform, you get those for and against, which makes it healthy, and we encourage people and for do that. We want to see their feedback.
Make I just correct one, because I seen the comment.
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
300 people have been, I not talk say 300 people have been killed. I say 300 people have submitted
Okay,
information.
so
we don't get 300 entries, not 300 killed. We not get to we not totalize anything in terms of deaths, and nobody will tell me say again 10 people don't die under we go just note that. We have to verify.
Yes, Mrs. Star.
Make I just say one thing. In an investigation like this, when you open for public, even people who want for disrupt the investigation can get a tendency for supply exaggerated detail. I get a case, for example, we don't see a situation where someone submitted, 2-3 people submitted a photograph of a particular lady, and where then claims say was shot and killed. This same picture of this person in 5 different forms, and we don't receive it multiple times, and 5 different ways in which the person was reportedly killed. So the most important partner that we find amusing, there is also an entry from this with a profile of the same lady who is reportedly killed, in get a profile picture, in also reporting to us the arrest of 7 other people or family, supposedly family members, including him. So you get the picture of the same person that's reporting missing family members, and then you get entries from at least 5 different people talking about the death of this same person whose photograph is on this profile that's reporting again the missing. So we are going to be very careful in terms of how we assess evidence and how we assess numbers. At this point, I have not made claim to any number of people who were missing, who were killed, or who were arrested. but we don't receive all kinds of entries and information, and we take everything and we're going to verify. So I just use this case because it's one of the, in investigations, you get things that amuse you, things that surprise you, things that annoy you. So as an investigator, you should be open to the surprises. So these are one of the, when I keep thinking about the amount of evidence we're getting, this is one of the stories that is so interesting to us. So in lines of investigation, we receive all kinds of things. So now the same thing again, where when we were doing financial investigations, you receive somebody say, "Oh, I did deposit so thing." So sometimes people assume that when they tell you something, you just take it like that. No, we have a responsibility of rigorously assessing evidence and making sure by the time that evidence comes out, is our name, our reputation, our stake that's attached to it. We have to be able to prove beyond doubt, not reasonable doubt, beyond doubt, that what we've put out is actually factual and can be substantiated. So that's what I want to say.
So, Fambulen, if you understand, this is now an era of clarification. Because on 10 day, you get the law of unintended consequences. But a lot they go on where it's intended. So you yes and you yai for open. And I the brother just do just now. I don't think say the sister be intentional. Maybe she got it wrong. But you find where the brother pick him up and correct him. Because the man get heavy media presence. Before you know, by Docklin tomorrow, una for the only publication there. Oh, CHERNOH Africanist present, 300 people have been killed in Sierra Leone. And a major headline, Andy. So I'm glad that he picked that up and correct him. And I sure say my sister go don't get that correction there as well. So let's have a quick look at the chat room. What are people saying? Lahai Kube Dauda, great being part of this very interesting discussion today. Thank you, Mr. Lahai Kube Dauda. Name sound new, but all the same, welcome. Mege Rogers writes, good evening, TNT family. Of course, Sister Mege, you become a regular feature on the platform, and I'm really happy about this. Please spread the news far and wide. Bubakar Dalaba, greeting everyone, live from Jue Western area, rural Freetown. Bubakar, thank you so much from Western area, Jue. Wow, this is great. I hope we say you go tell we how things things are quiet when they do well, because we are interested in that. Thank you so much for tuning in. Medbanks, we are waiting for the audio, sir. Definitely that audio will be coming. We promise you that, Mr. Medbanks. Suma Abdullah, Salon Wahala, crisis equals confused.com. Noel Faulkner, good evening all. Good evening, Mr. Faulkner. How are you, sir? Med Moral Kamara, I am here. Of course, we see you, Mr. Med Moral Kamara. Thank you for coming. Zainab Kamara, Sierra Leoneans are used to sufferation. Yes, sister, this is true. And this now been to tell a friend earlier on today. It is true. We've been suffering for decades. So we used to ram somehow. But we not mortal man, we not to animal. Even animal go react. So the point that they try for make is, when that suffering reach some kind level which become intolerable, not acceptable, because you can't put up with them anymore, then obviously you will react. It seems like they push you towards the wall, and the possible way they push you towards the wall, know that you can't go through the wall, but they continue to do that. What do? You push back. Thank you for that comment. Kumba Tarawali, hello, Sister Kumba. Zainab Kamara, we are sufferation champions. Abu Kamara, God bless Africanist Press for discussing the suppression Sierra Leoneans are undergoing in this government. Zainab Kamara, say that again, brother. Martha Bangura is watching. Hello, Sister Martha. Zainab Bangura, exactly, bro. Zainab Kamara, rather. For the SCLA, the government is deluded and misguided by the fake degree holders. KK, welcome, Mr. CHERNOH. God bless you, sir. Zainab Kamara, thank you, CHERNOH. Mohammed Kamara is watching. Fuad Sisi, welcome, Mr. Ba. George Orwell, a very impressive opening by you, Mr. Kruma. Welcome, Mr. Ba, to the Den and Now show. Thank you, Mr. Orwell. Kumba Tarawali, Zainab Kamara, well done, guys. Mohammed Koroma, welcome, Mr. Ba. Please do not give up to the good job of our beloved Mama Salon. Absila, the president don't start for dress like King Jong-un from North Korea. This is interesting. Christopher Davis. Carlos Avu. Hi, everyone. Hi, Carlos. KK, well done, Mr. Kroma. Wonderful program as always. God bless you, sir. Many thanks, KK. Kasimu Mohammed Kamara, may Allah continue to bless you guys. Ibrahim Kamara, the protest was legitimate and people were tired with the corruption, police brutality, nepotism, and human rights abuse. People don't think about Adebayo as a stakeholder to this protest. People are just tired with SLPP government brutality and tribal division. Thank you, Mr. Kamara. Faya Musa, great to be part of this forum. I wonder now if Faya Musa, the journalist. In any case, Faya, how you dey do? I hope all is well. Prezo Posh, I'm 100% in support of the protest, but it goes the wrong way. It is true, it was hijacked by some elements, but the people being get a legitimate right for protest. Even the president of the republic has said so, that yes, the people get right for express their feelings, and that feelings was hurt. Thank you, Mr. Prezo Posh. Adama Bamboo, hello TNN. Hey, how you do, Adama? I hope all is well. Prezo Posh, that's not the way we expected it. Usman Conte, greetings from East Dulwich. East Dulwich, wow, you're just next door to me, Mr. Conte. How are you, sir? I hope all is well. Fatmata Bangura, hello. Political mammodology, wow. Just listen to pathetic audio from a victim of sexual abuse by police officers on unlawful arrest and detained suspect of the August 10th violent incidents. Those allegations must be investigated. Yes, that's what the Africanist press is doing. And not forget political mammology. I have cut and paste the Africanist President website on Right for Justice. There is a form there which you can fill anonymously. It will be investigated, not because you put on there so then just grab and publish them or use them as evidence, but the information where you get, you will be doing the people of Sierra Leone justice. If you can forward them, then we'll take the honors for investigate them. Thank you so much for your contribution. Jacqueline Bull, good day, Mr. CHERNOH. Thank you for your wonderful and patriotic stance for our nation. Please keep educating us. Kadiatu Conte, God bless you, Mr. Kroma, for always bringing Mr. Ba to your platform so that we can know what is going on in our country. God bless and protect you all in Jesus' name. Amen, sister. And many thanks for that, Mr. Ba. In fact, I've got news for you at the end of this program. Thank you so much, Sister Kadiatu Conte. Absila, Mother Bio will gonna give account for all those things by the grace of God Almighty. Gladys Kanu is watching. Issa Sise is watching. Matu Hassan, good evening. Good evening, Matu. Adama Mambu, the wrong way because the police shot at the protesters and the protesters were left with no alternative than to defend themselves. The arbitrary killing of harmless people who just come to express their frustrations of how things are going in the country is way too much in just 4 years of this government, and they show no remorse as if the people do not have the right to ask the government and the promises they campaign on. And mind the killings of protesters are concentrated in particular regions. Thank you, Sister Adama. Memunatu Muna Bari. Hello, distinguished gentlemen and all concerned Sierra Leoneans. Thank you, distinguished lady. Thank you so much, Memunatu Bari. Share, share, share. Please, my people. Thank you so much for urging people for share. No, but that's business. Salon business, now all man business. Thank you, Sister Memunatu. Mohammed Fall. Hello, my brother, Mr. CHERNOH. May God continue to restore blessing upon you in Jesus' name. Amen. Matu Hassan, Mr. Ba, can you please talk about the registration? Yes, I'm going to bring that up. In fact, he will talk about it now. They are now taking advantage. They want to do the registration in 2 phases, 15 days each. Northwest first, Southeast second, but it's just an air, say, no press release. Yeah, I think CHERNOH talked something about this briefly, which is not acceptable. Yeah, CHERNOH, this is for you. The sister is saying, while you have more on this registration upcoming.
It's very unfair for making them begin segregate the registration, because that's like that's segregation in voter registration. And any time an electoral commission or electoral management body does that, because they have an intention of making sure one group of people register in one region and less. So registration should happen nationally. The national exercise should happen nationally simultaneously. That is why NEC get more staff, more budgetary allocation, and they have what it takes to do that. So for them begin do district by district or region by region, separate registration in difference. I even confused. Suppose somebody go register at the other place, you know, it will register or by the time they cancel, it don't miss registration or the day, or they make sure say there are difficulties in the process of registration. So say when 1 month for register, that 1 month should be done nationally simultaneously. And this is why it's important for begin ask the councillors, members of parliament, and your political party leaders to not just say una can't register. It's their business to make sure that the registration is done according to the requirements, according to how NEC supposed to conduct registration, following the law, following the rules. So that they're supposed to do. But now the MPs, they don't go holiday, they don't get for return until registration done. And then they are not even talking about this ongoing violence for suppressed people and from the, especially the north and the west and northwest regions of the country. Those of you who really want to register and get, we're still getting our MPs and phone numbers as we shared the last time. You have to tell them to impress upon NEC the need for do that. I think we'll go for fair way for publish the NEC commissioner, chief electoral commissioner in the chief electoral commissioner in phone number, and maybe all the electoral commissioners and phone numbers. So you, the voters, will actually tell them that you want registration at the national level, because if we left hand them politicians, they are a problem. I think that is what, from this question, that is what we have to do now. So they will know now, say, people that want for register, and they want the registration centers to be accessible, and they don't want the Electoral Commission to begin to say they have to borrow statistics first from the NCRA. If we allow, if you know, these are democratic things that can be done. You know, they require police for shoot you. You can send a peaceful text message to them, tell them this is what we want. We get 10 more days to the start of registration. I think we need to do this. And thank you for asking that question. It just remind me perhaps what actions we need to take now instead of waiting for these members of parliament who have gone AWOL. They've gone missing in action.
Yeah, absolutely. And una watch out. Text go begin come out, for urge the people on what to do. I mean, within a safe environment and respectfully and exercising their franchise. So yeah, we all go back that campaign there and we all go put out, bulletins out there. It was a serious question, and I think Mr. Bado addressed that. Otondo Sise watching from Sweden. Thank you so much, Mr. Kroma. I'm Kroma, by the way, KROM and not Koroma. I'm not causing to Anes Koroma. For tremendous effort bringing Mr. CHERNOH back to the platform. We appreciate cooperation from Mr. Ba. Thank you so much, Mr. Otondo Sise. Matu Hassan, Mr. Ba, do you think that these parliamentarians are afraid to talk because they will be killed? This is an interesting question you asked, Mr. Matu Hassan. I remember, was it barely 2 weeks ago, you had a different position. I think me and Mr. Bab in the air, a program and series of other programs then. As soon as we become critical of certain parliamentarians, instead of we listen to what was being said, and so we go pick the sense out of the nonsense, we were immediately under attack. And I think, you two were excited at some of the attacks that were ongoing. But now you asked a very good question. I mean, I want, and now for Mr. Ba, so it's my duty anyway, I just say that, for put on to Mr. Ba. So Mr. Ba, the sister in question is, do you not think that these parliamentarians are afraid to talk because they will be killed?
No. They can't be killed. In fact, now that thing they make we believe, say, Madabio is a monster. But now we've come to know that many of them are in bed with the ruling party. They're in bed with the ruling party simply because they have their own flag bearer ambition. And this is why the APC as a political party has been made dysfunctional. It has no executives. And when I talk about these things, I know I'm not talking about it because I'm APC. No. Me just want to make the multi-party constitution of Sierra Leone be upheld. The constitution provides for the existence of a multi-party environment. Why? People need to have multiple choices. If they cannot choose A and B, they should be able to choose from C, D, and E. So when you have a situation where the political party A thinks that political party B has the potential to replace A and then begins to fiddle with political party B, those of us who are concerned about the democratic environment should speak against it, not because we want that party to come to power. No, we just want the citizens of Sierra Leone to have the opportunity to choose from multiple choices as guaranteed by the Constitution. So Madabio should not decide who should lead the APC or any other political party. That should be the decision of the party members in that party. And no political party leader or so-called stakeholder in a political party should be allowed to connive with the president or the institutions in the country to deprive other politicians in his or her own party the opportunity to fairly compete for leadership in that party or for representation or the opportunity to represent members of that party at the national level. So if we see that again, we will speak against that, because the lack of democracy or the opportunity to multiple choices within political parties, they also affect the opportunity for many people and choose get multiple choices of multiple opportunities for choose among those choices in the national stage. So democracy should not just happen within the executive arm of government, it should happen within the organizations that are seeking to represent us at the national level. That is the mistake. If we not democratize political parties in a fair way, without the involvement of the state or state institutions, then we risk having a government that is not the reflection of people's desires and aspirations within the party and at the national level. And that caused Madabio. So Madabio, if the SLPP constitution provides that when you compete in an election, you represent the party as the party's flag in an election, and you lose, you should automatically vacate or cease the position. So when Madabio competed in 2012 and failed, the SLPP members, his own supporters, then decide to violate the party constitution by bringing what they call Resolution 3. Resolution 3 was advanced in their party meeting by saying that Madabio, because they don't petition the election result, if exercise political leadership. Arguments start. In fact, Alpha Timbo, who is now a minister in the BO government, objected. Now, the first person we object to that while it's just I still remember so he went to monologue, David Ambayo's show that evening, was interviewed, where he said the party don't violate the constitution, but because the larger elements within the party will be undemocratic because of their ethnic loyalty and ethnic choice, decide to keep that illegality there. So the party scatter, the end of scatter, you get NGC as a result of that. If the party enforce the democratic requirements within the constitution, it is possible that Madabio will not be president of Sierra Leone today. So if we have a dictator and an incompetent leader, and this violent terroristic environment now, that state terror that we have, is because internal democracy within the SLPP failed. And internal democracy is failing.
Okay.
Undermined in the APC, not because of the old executive, because democracy, again, not just by choice, is the consensus, the agreement, following the rule. For example, the APC past constitution say you can either do election or selection. So if you don't get the two provision, anybody do other thing outside of the nine will say, now they've gotten rid of that. They provided that they should have election. Then they ended up now not having a group that is selected by its own members, but selected by the court. So this group that is selected by the court is now going to select an election management committee. That election management committee is now going to implement rules and regulations developed by a selected committee appointed by the court. And now they will have an election that is conducted by selected individuals. A group selected by the court and a group that's going to be selected by those selected by the court. And then they will now conduct a selected election. That selected election is going to produce executives now. So by extension, all of the chain of leaders now from the ward level to go up, they will be the result of a selected process initiated by the state.
Same thing when
so now you end up
selection.
Yeah. Now you rejected selection or election in your constitution. You accepted and settled for selection by the state.
By the state, the judiciary, a justice, an illegitimate justice.
So this illegitimacy is what we are not speaking about it because we favor one candidate over the other. We are speaking about it because we know we are heading for a disastrous situation at the national level. We will. The question for me, the BO government has lost popular support. Now the government they try for any kind of way for staying at power, and it's impossible for the government to do that if the opposition we don't work for making them get this election at the APC. Not they can try for support and for doing. So the only way Mother Bill can get a second term, in our view and in our own assessment, is by stealing the election. And it will be impossible for him to steal the election if the opposition
Cherno,
does
let
not
me
help
let
him to
me
steal
let
the
me
election.
stop you. Let me stop you there. And the reason why they stop you there because we don't come to the end of the show and we get many other questions that I believe say family and they ask you. Because this is quite interesting and even by this one way you talk so. You raise a point just now why we want to ask you a question, but that for be open another canker worm again, which is if APC don't work so hard within the last 4 years hoping for return of power, this recent protest we see we turn violent, how could they have been the architect of it? I don't want you answer Ramo because this is now another show for a different day altogether, if you know what I mean. So let's move on, brother, and you are keep on short. This is so scary about this registration. Are there enough registration centers? Cherno?
No, that are the thing that would be the say. By now, NEC for them publish, but before this protest, these are the questions the women they talk. When I announce when I publish, disclose the amount of public.
And by the way, we just hit the 400 mark just now. All along where you been the talk, with a fluctuate 392, 393, back to 377. And I've been a pray for that we hit the 400 mark and we just did. Continue, brother. I'm excited a bit.
So basically, these are the questions that we've been come on the floor for NEC. Registration centers, how many registration officers they so we now begin to see even more registration officers recruited for the south and the east regions, places believed to be SLPP strongholds, as opposed to areas where get more population and that is considered as opposition strongholds. So these are the issues where MPs were being told to ask. But the moment now this protest don't happen, people don't forget about that. Then questions they are. Now all they're concerned about is their safety. And this concerns for safety and security and peace is only in one region of the country. In the western area, eastern part of Western Freetown, and the other parts of the north that is considered APC strongholds or northwest. That is where people are being raided. So you see the programmed effort by the police and the army, the use of military security violence for terrorize people believed to be non-supporters of the incumbent party, so they will be incapable of registering. Where now NEC is saying because the south and the east is peaceful, they get forget their own 2 weeks of peaceful registration. So by then they can maybe another protest they get for raise back. Now, the south, the northwest region. So other protests happen now. So because the government get every intention to make sure say then registration, voter register, get for tally with the census. If you not tally with the census, that's disgrace for them. Then we don't shame to the EU, then we don't shame to the World Bank. And members,
Yeah, Cherno. So you see, this is why it's interesting. I mean, we need for hold another show quickly on all of this. Because like what you say just now, if you not turn up for you, then the shame they come. Then government want to use what they call dry eye cover shame. Then they get for enforce that false census report for reflect the outcome where they want. Do you envisage such a scenario?
No, that not just envisage. That is what we're dealing with. We are dealing with a government that has lied about its national population. So now that big lie, and this lie now involve just the presidency, it involve almost all the institutions in the country. We are police, we are brought in, everybody. So it's national integrity and individual integrity at stake. Okay, at the government level, at the state level. But the government don't long time ago give up. They know say the international community knows say they don't lie. So now they have to maintain that lie at all cost. And now
Okay.
it don't come at the cost of lives.
Yeah,
At the
and
cost of
just
lives,
make
people
the
have been
case
killed,
worse.
people have been brutalized. So,
Yeah.
but we can also make sure they do not get away with it by encouraging people to make them TNAP regardless of circumstances and make sure they are registered, which is why it's important for us to share the phone numbers of the electoral commissioners, from the chief electoral commissioner to the other regional commissioners and impress upon them the need for carry out one simultaneous registration across.
So let's get that done first thing tomorrow morning to our
Exactly.
people.
Two,
Yeah.
to make sure there is a disclosure, public disclosure of registration centers, so we'll be able to assess the equal distribution of registration centers across the country, across regions. So no one region is given an undue advantage over another, because we know why region is important in this case, because voting patterns and voting loyalties are also based on the regional division in the country. So we have to underline that.
Okay.
And these are basic demands. But I will encourage everyone to begin to talk to your family members, to your friends, to make sure they come out to register, even if they do not know which candidate to vote for, but make them sure say the government has lied, to prove this lie by the government that the population of Freetown, for example, is what they are saying. Now that makes it say they chase people and so on, because they don't scatter all the market women in Abacha Street. Make it difficult, because now the market women will be talking about their livelihoods. How forget your money? I listened to this audio done by these brothers, Ibrahim and Cashbox and Koita, where they are interviewing women, live voices of women who have been dispersed by police from Abacha Street to all these marketplaces, because they don't want them to congregate. Now, when you wake up in the morning, you are thinking about how to get daily bread. Then they don't scatter outside with the drag. When you buy 100,000 leon market, you can't sell it, you get 120,000, 20,000 you use for chop money. You keep the 100. That's how they've been surviving. Now they've been dispersed, they've been scattered.
You think say Mali's been there under this because they don't provide any alternative?
The way they disperse people, they basically suppress them from voting. Other people are being hounded and accused of being party. All them Mammy Queen and area youth man, they will be the organized people for register. They're not scattered at all.
Intentionally.
So you find out, so
there's some malice.
So this is a way of suppressing voters. What thing they're not able to do with the NIN parliament, we want for every 90 they do with the police and the army. So we have to encourage people to
part of the normative
register
stage of crooking an election. This is all part of it.
Yeah.
Anyway, Mohammed Keture, Mr. Kroma, you are a great person by always hosting fine journalists. Please keep it up. Many thanks, Mr. Keture. I appreciate your kind sentiments, sir. Fatmata Bangura, please share, please share. Thank you, Fatmata. Carlos Avu, thank you, Mr. Ba. You have highlighted everything. This is what brings the grievance that led to August 10 happening. Of course, it's not some rocket science. You're absolutely right, Carlos. Zainab Kamara, Matu Hassan, parliamentarians and politicians should not be scared of dying or being locked up in jail, as that is a part of their job. It sounds a bit extreme, but it's a fair statement. They took an oath. That oath of office, now in the guide them. How now, in behalf of the people and we vote you in, you cannot stand up for them, and you get the gall and the balls for tell people and say, well, I'm scared. And then you stood for elections, and then you can't protect your constituents? Come on, give me a break. Aminata Konde, political diversion tactics. Al-Hassan Kaba, very good point, CHERNOH. Rigging an election comes in many forms, has been well explained by CHERNOH. Almami Kabo, God bless you, Mr. Kroma. Matu Hassan, not our own parliamentary in Sierra Leone. They have never been hard with this government. Absolutely, they've never been hard with this government. They gave us that impression as if they had this wolf in the house and they were sheep and they were scared of being eaten. And then we found out that they were the wolves in sheep clothing. Now you're going to come back for me again tomorrow. I'm waiting. Abdul Sisi, the opposition should have made it known to the UN about the oppression of the SLPP for the registration. Absila, they will never do it, sir. They already sell game to them. Abu Kamara, please let the will-be independent investigation equally cover other incidents like the Pandemba Road incident, the generator incident in Makeni, to name but a few. CHERNOH, that would be too wide a scope, isn't it? And for now, your focus is on this recent, yes.
No, but it's fair. We're going to see if that can cover the whole regime or not. But it also depends on resources. They want to say a tremendous amount of resources going to go into this, and time, energy, money.
Yeah.
and all of
and there
them.
are
So
other things to
we
do.
will see what the possibilities offer.
Yeah. Absila, if Marabio win 2023, well, finally, Motaman they begin eat in company. Interesting. Matu Hassan, Mr. Ba, I think the violence of killing these police officers are well planned. The youth have no guns. It's only one police officer in Freetown that was killed by the youth through stone, but the rest was killed by gun. So who killed them? Interesting take, Matu, and I'm glad the way you they open your thoughts process. Yeah. And I hope it's not tailored, and I hope that the thought process is open, an open mind one. But hopefully, the next time when me and Cherno meet, or if I do hold a monologue, I will have had enough information by then. We're gonna make me for opine on then question their way they ask. Many thanks for that. Mama Yebu Tigi, good evening, TNN TV Media. Nice to be with you all. Yes, Mama Yebu, great supporter of this platform. Thank you and good evening. Absila, if Mara Bio, okay, same story. Okay, if una come down to this, una go see usa a post the website of the Right for Justice campaign. So now there you get that form where if you get anything where you want to report, feel free. Anything I think will be considered. And not me say where you send and then they go publish it immediately or use them as evidence. No. But they are interested in hearing from all Sierra Leoneans. Yeah. Thank you so much. Matu Hassan, we pray that will not happen. If not, some of us will never go back to Sierra Leone. Dog will eat them, man. Northern and Western will eat that. It sound extreme, but these things are not far-fetched. And at that Chernobyl, they talk earlier on about, I think now East Africa, where we talk about Burundi and Rwanda. Say with all this flash and pageantry and pomp way Kagame Depan. And Mr. Sen, a fan of Kagame, but Kagame been all lost that a long time ago. So underneath, he is doing some unsavory things. Go back now, Burundi, Bujumbura, it's the same thing happening there. Bloodshed, just for keep power. It's happening there. So it's not far from ours. Power, not a small thing, my dear sister. Mohammed Keturi, as far as my instinct, they will do everything to win the election. But I don't understand. How can you govern when you're lacking control? That's a very interesting thought, Mr. Keturi. But remember, African leaders, they are not really far from that. In fact, then you know the brutality in elect for you say for rule. They can enjoy that. They're so weak, paper tiger, tin pot dictator them. Where if they fire banger, you want to see where they run, but then they elect for make like champion. You're absolutely right. Carlos Avu, I know you can do that, sir. We have great confidence in you. Absila Matu Hassan, say it again. Prezo Song J-Man. Greetings from Bristol City. Hey, Prezo Song J-Man, Bristol. How are you, my dear brother? Thanks for watching. Arun Fona. If only Kenema is Salon, Mother will still lose the elections. People, be mindful of what is spoken and register massively. That's a good battle cry for motivate people and for go register. Thank you, Mr. Arun Fona. Adama Mambu, Sierra Leoneans made a big mistake to elect the serial killer to head a nation. Sulaiman Barry, thanks very much, guys. Matu Hassan, Mr. Ba, investigation will be put out to the international community to see what is going on. I think it will be useful. But he said it, Matu, yeah, and you're right. Thank you for that. Marina Bangura, thank you so much. God bless you for your good work. Marina Bangura, God bless you, sir. Alan Kabia, well done, my Franciscan brother. Keep the banner high. And I think this they go to you, CHERNOH. I know me not say you're not Franciscan. That's from Mr. Kabia. Hi, Alan. How you do, sir? I hope all is well. Matu Hassan, BO has captured the state. The police, the military, the journalists, the people that they will allow to be interviewed are all under the pocket. I want you address this briefly, CHERNOH. You've spoken about state capture extensively, and the sister Matu Hassan, now that in the express here. So if this is the case that the state has been captured, and the key elements of the state, strategic, police, army, NEC, and you name it, what are the prospects of power changing?
But no, there is. This is why you see the current constant battle, because now it's not like in the 70s or the 80s, as you've been talking the other day, where information is difficult to pass across. As you say, we just we are now talking to about 400 people. That's a lot. In the past, it was very difficult to have this. So we know what in the happen, and knowing what is happening is one way of addressing it. And I think the possibilities do exist. This is why you see we were able to stop Parliament from passing that secret law. And now you see the ongoing terror. Now we are also addressing, speaking to it. So while the government is trying to misinform and distract in a dishonest way and deceive people, and we are also trying to set the people on the road that is required. That's done at a constant battle. We just have to continue to do this. That's not the only thing. Multiply this effort, both at the
Okay.
individual level and at the collective level.
Okay. Thank you for that. I mean, these thoughts are really, really important, and there are critical reasons why I'm asking you, because there is a throng of people where they hang on to what you they see, and there are people who are looking for leadership at this particular point. People are confused. People are, intimidated. They feel threatened. Then they go through mental stress and etc. So then they listen to voices of reason. What can they do? Thank you so much, Mr. Ba. Adama Mambu, indeed, he has brought some people, but there are people undercover who have the evidence and who are ready to accept interview anonymously. I believe that's what she's trying to say. If that's the case, then that's fine. That's why the Africanist Press, through this their initiative, Right for Justice campaign, has a website who will publish now, and we will send them further na the website, na the other pages them with social media handles them. When you go there, you go through the application them. There is a site there, Usai. There's a form where you can fill out if you get information. Please use it. Your information is guaranteed. You will never be outed. You are protected because these are professional people. When they say confidentiality apply, it does apply. And then they sell you for Kukwebe. Thank you so much. Moses Dumbuya, watch. Lord Mo, how are you? Long time, bro. I hope the family is well. We will talk later. Zainab Kamara is watching. Julia Grant, Mr. Bah. Frank Med, Koroma, Frank Med is watching. James Lavalley, the Bio regime is trying to use the August 10 protest to whitewash vital issues of national concern published by the Africanist Press. No way. It will not work. Julia Grant, good job. Zainab Kamara, shame on them. And they wait for a dissenting view. I mean, there were over 400 people that were watching this program. Of course, a large number of them contributed, but it seemed like everybody did in tandem. Can I get a different view? V. Isata Fito. I see a few new names. I mean, the platform is growing and I'm impressed. Thank you so much. Aminata Konde. Open government in Salon. They are too corrupt to be transparent. Mama Yebutigi, CHERNOH is quite correct about Kagame of Rwanda and Museveni of Uganda. Both dictators and ex-military men like our dictator. And Sister Mama Yebutigi, there is a relationship between the two, beginning from the camps na Congo, DR Congo, where they launched their military campaign. And there is a story about how Kagame became president because under Uganda, when I've been the senior one at the time, then we get a different leader. We say, if I die, for this campaign, and this is real, but we'll go talk about it another day. Let me move forward. Very interesting. Carlos Avo, Mr. Ba, you need to talk to one of these international media houses like the BBC, CNN. He's always not always there, but he's spoken with them, and I think they go like for a reform. So that's a good suggestion. There are other international medias that he speaks to as well. I think we need to begin publicize them so that people can go begin here. Say not only local press or social media that he speaks to. Of course, we get relevance and he is strategic and he choose them as to get the message out there. But good talk, Carlos. Mama Ibutigi, they are all mentors of our military dictators. Zainab Kamara, very sad situation. KK, please don't forget to like the show. Thanks. Thank you, Sister KK. And let me just emphasize on that quickly. With a broadcast simultaneously to YouTube and Facebook, we shy of a few dozen, forget 3,000 subscribers na YouTube, and I have no doubt that we will soon have it. But the point I'm trying to make, please subscribe to a YouTube page. On the Facebook page, you can either follow or you like. You got a choice there to make, and these both channels then they are dedicated to we live shows. Mimuna Tumuna Bari, hi labor. His labor will not go in vain in Jesus' mighty name. I think that's for CHERNOH. Christopher Davis, Mr. Chernoh, please request for an interview with the BBC and CNN to speak to all what you are. Chernoh, I think say you need to tell these people that you're going to be asking the CNN or waiting for CNN to call
No,
pretty
no,
soon.
no. We Africanist Press get over 800,000 subscribers, including international media. If I remember when they interviewed President Bio sometime last year and talk about the corruption of his wife and the chief minister, minister of finance, and all that, it got to do with the publications we make. So we are also an international media agency. So
Okay,
when the need arises, we do speak. And at the time when we published that, there was need to do that. We did that. But we are all involved in the production of information about Africa and about
absolutely,
our places. So,
absolutely. And
but there are things we
Mr.
do also. Sometimes when journalists want to interview, they ask other people who are familiar with the place to tell them, "Oh, these are the questions." So with
Yeah,
the interactions are many. That's not what I'm. We're
there,
not
there, we,
worried
there
about
we
that.
go, Mr. Davis. You know, the interactions are many, and then they up to that level. I mean, 800,000, that's 200,000 shy of a million. That means that they compete with
And
a
if you check Sierra Leoneans who are subscribed there, we are not. They are not up to 2,000. So
big.
almost
Yeah, that's why we get that low number there because
yeah.
we are just kind of, local with
But
few
the
foreigners.
800,000 when we publish these are it go mass to all these 800,000 people, many of whom this is why you see
Okay.
Africanist Press stuff is going all over.
Okay, I'm sure Mr. Davis got a message. Memuna to Munabari, thank you so much, dear brother Cherno Emba. Absila. Me, not to SLPP, either APC, but if they say, na that former president, they want, put Motpa, na in they give them problem. We all they see country them way better pass we, then still they call the man for the important program them. Make we not say that man a very important in our society. Okay, it's clear the border they talk about UNESCO. If now they put Motpa in the try for Brian Kandong, then they are making a huge mistake. Lucretia Ban. Yeah, this is another new name and welcome. Hi TNN TV Media Empire. People are not allowed to prophesy or say your dream against the government. If it is materialized, you will be arrested. There are bigger things coming on which is unavoidable. Wow. That's like the apocalypse, Sister Lucretia. Please tell us so we can, know what to do. Mama Ibutigi, even human rights organizations are very concerned about Kagame. Christopher Davis, Mr. Ba, we want to listen to you on BBC and CNN and VOA News on radio. Make this possible for us, please. Okay, he's had you, and hopefully that will be coming soon. Mohamed Ali Soa, or Saw. Cherno is a patriot, and we love him. Sierra Leoneans appreciate his efforts to bring light to things that are inimical to our state, but our fake leadership, especially the caretaker and his cohorts. Yabangura watching from the Netherlands. Yay, Netherlands! How are you? Thank you so much, Christopher Davis. Mr. Prince, you make a laugh. So we president can shock where he can see some word them. Then in speech where they write. Of course, brother. I mean the evidence is there. Sometimes the president can read, he can see certain things that he can pause. He can really see like where somebody's scared. But he has to say it anyway. And Cherno was right. If he was smart enough, he can twist them somehow for suit, some kind of narrative. Whether you get for read and word for word. Remember where you go Konola give one typical example where you see na parliament he say we don't give lights to blah 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 where you see the first he pause later on he read and in the parliamentarian and they are like and I think say na they didn't pull that thing grammar to lie the part don't lie something like that. Remember that this is real. Julia Grant, the police is a problem in Sierra Leone. Fatmata Bangura, yes please, I want to know about extraditions of people back to Sierra Leone. Is this possible? Well, he's addressed that already. Salima to Mansari Kanu, if he did that, will that help 8, 9, and 10 protests? The world will know as to why PPP protested. Sarafina. They want our monies during campaign and to uphold the economy, but not our voices in achieving and supporting good governance. We'll continue to hold their feet to the fire. Bam, Sarah. I love that. Well said. Absila, the police is not the problem. The person in charge of the police is the problem. Lucretia Ban, hi sister Sarafina, it's all about Salone. Barbara Brown, that's another new name. Welcome, sister Barbara. Now the police then force fire tear gas on the protesters. There we go. Of course, we know they take that as Holy Bible or Quran, but here we go. And normally that's what happens. Heavy-handed policing, they create the riot from protest to riot. Fatmata Bangra, I agree, Mr. Ba. They can pay people to kill for them. political mabunology. Please do not forget to investigate the sexual abuse cases on the 10th of August, violence in detention centers manned by the SLP. Of course, the campaign is all about waiting happen these few times, and notes have been taken. So if you not get the information, please send it on. You can get in contact with me. You can get in contact with Mr. Ba. You can go to the website and do your due diligence. Thank you so much, my friend. Alan Camara Francis. Alan Kabia, impressive. Alan Camara Francis, how are you, sir? I hope all is well. Got some senior brothers watching tonight. Isatu Z Conte. Med Moral Kamara, thank you, Mr. Bar. Beatrice Thompson, why will they extradite Sierra Leoneans? I do believe you are on paycheck. God Almighty will continue to punish you all for the wickedness towards our people. Lucretia Ban, not doing fine, worried about my people and country. Matu Hassan, Bio is evil. He just doesn't want Sierra Leoneans to protect. Kadiatu Conte, Chernobyl, you are really a blessing for our nation. Thank you. God Almighty continue to strengthen you. Sarafina, they should focus on improving the quality of life. Okay, I think I've read most of the comments and we'll end on here because we really need to end the show. And this takes me to before I allow Chernobyl to close the show, here is what I've been keeping. So it is important for Famul and for Nose, a man we all broadcast for a few years. Great respect for him. Came to the platform, became polished, and learned the skills of the game and etc. Has finally moved on, and his slot has been left empty, which is on a Saturday prime time slot. Having said this, we parted company on a mutual basis, and I wish him well. This is me. Long before him were others who can ply the trade, then sabi waiting for do, and then go on. And today, some of them are flourishing, others are languishing. This is just the game. Now, I make her happy. I can say I read the art or the book of Sun Tzu, which is about the art of war. I've read so many of these things that I understand a little bit about what happens. But we pray and we hope Papa God Almighty and we self na the gone, they apply the principles then. So it's a matter of survival. Having said this, the gap, luckily for me, is going to be filled by the Africanist press. Cherno Emba will be a regular feature on this particular program. I announce again that Mr. Cherno Alpha Emba is going to be a regular feature on the T&N Media Empire. You see, who Jah bless, no one curse. So we are just going higher. Imagine the clout. And I'm excited. I'm really, sometimes I don't give my feelings away, but publicly I can. Because of course I did struggle. How do I fill in this gap? How do I? Luckily for me, God sent Mr. Chernobyl will be filling that gap. So in the coming days and weeks, we will give you more information as to, in fact, we expect Chernobyl for doing debut a show this Saturday, because now the slot is going to be filled. But we'll do the fine work in the background, and if that materializes, pretty soon we'll bring and come to our knowledge. So keep your ears and eyes tuned. Who Jah bless once again, no one curse. And Chernobyl, thank you for that, for accepting my proposal to you for coming on the platform and take care of this particular stage where we go through. And I hope with you knowledge, with you clout, with you experience, with you Master Sabi, you go help for let we take the platform to another level. Thank you so much.
Yeah, we say one for thank you for giving us a standard time now you platform. This is welcome on our part because we realize, say, for the most part, when we write, now very good. We get international audience. We get few of the people that we know. So leading up to this election, and I think say the then and now platform has been very helpful to us, especially after this protest, for consecutively giving time for explaining to the people that everything been going on, because in the midst of state of the confusion, people need to understand. So in respect to that, we gladly accept the opportunity for participate in producing a show here, continue the conversation there. So what does that mean? We will develop a weekly show where I got a whole conversation with the public regarding review or views about things that are unfolding as part of the process of educate the public around what in the go on a salon. Although the media and a salon don't close way out, so we hope for use this platform and welcome this offer. Every Saturday we'll try for come if 1 or 2 hours, talk, provide perspective, and also get views from the public. We'll shape them up in a way that will be very interactive. So I will be a regular commentator here, and they also bring my colleagues then as well to provide explanation. So I look forward to the opportunity. I know I'll be a broadcaster, but I can learn to be a broadcaster now, in addition to be writing.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Yeah.
And I know you massive throng of followers will be excited tonight as there will be a permanent base. And the idea that you're such a busy man, you get for the right articles every other few
Yeah.
minutes, and then on top of that, you can do a dedication, here to the platform, which is good. But there's a common cause here, and I think this is where the unity come from, and this is where we find, like common ground for kind of interact because it's about the nation again, Famulem. It's not personal. It's about the nation. And if two people then walk the cross path and seem for align themselves, there's plenty of agreement. Then obviously, why they cannot collaborate, and this is the case here. And if two other people then decide, say, well, then walk, and then they kind of go well, and then they run, diametrically opposite to each other, it becomes toxic a relation, and that relationship is no longer of any kind material value. So therefore, on the basis of good faith, why not? Why not? I mean, yeah. And like I say again, I wish the young man well, but the then and now will continue. And luckily for us, every day the platform they grow incrementally. Thank you so much, Cherno. Last word.
So we just get for urge people then please when I talk to our families, make everybody get ready for register, everybody that's qualified, don't reach the age for participate in the election, please when I go out and register and make we impress upon NEC, make them do this registration simultaneously. It's very important for people. Then let us use the democratic way of making our choices and our voices heard. That I will encourage people. That we have initiated a writing campaign. I don't share the email of the president, direct email. I'd already get people writing letters and sending me copies of what they are writing. I will insist, please write dissent letters, explain the need for a democratic election, the need for democratic institutions, make them stop for harass people, then make them protect Sierra Leoneans. We need a quality governance in the country. So write to the president directly an email demanding more protection, more democratization, more civility in the way we govern. So I will continue to repost the email of the president and ask you to send that post. Those who have families, help us to collect the evidence in this investigation. We will continue to give update on that. And tonight, we're also publishing an article showing how the government is trying very hard to silence the Africanist press. So when they see the trouble, the challenges that we face, the government when they pretend say to the right, they know the money there, then they work out very hard. They show the document the way they put. They have me on their official documents and how they should bring criminal charges against me and Africanist press. All that we will publish that email and say them as well. And let us don't relent. We are making progress with our effort to hold leaders accountable. We're satisfied with that progress. We can achieve more and attain more. Let's keep pushing. We will actually get the country we want now or in the near future. I strongly believe that.
Yeah. On this note, we've come to the end of a brilliant conversation. This not to interview, this is not conversation where you and somebody naturally they get the points, and for churn out to the people, there's plenty of agreement. It then becomes a conversation which is different from an interview. You can call them an interview, but many of the points made here tonight is well agreed with. Chernoh, can I use this opportunity one more time for say a huge thank you to you, and I'm sure as per the comments na the platform, over 400 people they watch, and I'm very pleased with YouTube because YouTube actually they run more than Facebook now. And even though we've been spammed, I understand all the things then they and viruses and etc. and fake reporting, we not do anything when they go tell people and say we don't do this. But YouTube was how they hope for transfer to. It's now we get over 200 people on YouTube watching us, so the total came to 400 and something. And YouTube in the over 200 and something, while Facebook in the run below the 200 mark. But I want to say thank you to you again once more, Cherno. And I shall talk to you again soon.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. Anyway, family, like I've been saying, we don't come to the end of this lovely, lovely program. Very beautiful program, and I want to say thank you to una all. A little bit tired, I must confess, plenty of work, looking for research materials. Last week, I think it was 4 straight programs that I did, and it was me alone. And I'm excited by the news, that CHERNOH will be a permanent fixture on the platform. And I'm looking forward to it, and I'm sure you guys are looking forward to it as well. 800,000 people all around the world, subscribing to Africanist Press, and then he will be here, which means that he will be bringing value, to the platform. But we'll see how it goes. It's always a venture, but I'm happy, I'm excited. You not hearing me, voice don't go, my eyes are going. So you get somebody where they can help you at this time. That's good. So I want to thank you very much. And I want to not forget Dr. Tonya Musa, the chief media man of Abbey College, will be on the platform. And we got Dr. John Idris Lahai himself would expect him to be on the platform. So keep your eyes and ears open. And we'll continue to mobilize people and those of una within the diaspora. We'll continue to mobilize una people and let them go join. As long as you're over 18, it's your entitlement. Make sure say you register at a place where they near you so that you're able for Waka and Godi. Now you write where the campaign begin, go join the line peacefully for register so you go able for vote. Now the only thing that they will make you eligible. So in terms of voter registration, this platform endorses that 100+% if it mathematically possible. I've been your host and presenter for tonight's show. I am Prince Emil Kroma, and I say good night to una all. Keep the faith. Sierra Leone will rise again. Thank you so much. La Lefuna with Emerson. Some people them are lucky. The money on them they make anybody can make